The program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to WildEarth and your very own African safaris live from the African bush. I'm Dan this morning. On camera, we've got BK. But this morning, let's spend a bit of time looking in the riverbeds. We're going to be looking for some lions and leopards here in Ngala, Djuma. I know we're also looking for some hyenas and some hyena cubs. Welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, everybody. And this morning, it's a beautiful day here. The weather's a little bit overcast and not too hot. We're hoping that the rain manages to stay away. It's probably around 22 degrees Celsius. And yeah, very little chance of rain. But I'm Dan, and on the camera we got BK this morning. Our plans, we're going to be hanging around in this little riverbed, maybe towards a watering hole. There was a pride of lions late last night that was heading towards them. Maybe we'll be lucky in trying to find them. I know at Djuma we're looking for some leopards and lions as well, and hyena cubs. Maybe the new ones will come and show themselves. So let's spend a bit of time in this riverbed. It's a really good time to look for tracks as we keep going. And watering hole's not too far, particularly with the direction that those lions last night were walking. It was almost as if they were walking straight towards this watering hole, and if we're very lucky they may still be there. I mean, during the days and even in the evenings there'll be lots of general game around some of these watering holes, and the lions will take it quite slow and quite easy when they approach there looking for food. The lions were also looking pretty hungry last night. We saw them kind of hunting giraffe, which is suggesting that they're looking for a big meal as well. So if we're very lucky, we pop up to the watering hole, we might find a surprise for us there. If not, I'm sure we'll be greeted by some hippos, and hopefully they'll be moving around. And as, of course, some lovely birds. So I'm going to send you off to a lovely sunrise. Here it's a bit gloomy, but let's see if we can get a beautiful sunrise on this lovely day. Dumela, hello from Tswalu Kalahari on this very beautiful and fairly chilly morning. We are just meandering here through the southern sections, and we thought, what a beautiful scene to say good morning to everybody. A very good morning to everybody. My name is Kyle, and behind camera is Owen, and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. And thanks so much for joining us on this fantastic and spectacular morning. How creative is all of this right over here? Obviously there's a little bit of wind. It's definitely making a little bit of a creative pattern with the clouds. And while we're enjoying that, we are meandering southwest, and we are trying to find, we're going to go to a spot where we're going to try and find a little African wildcat. Myself and Owen a few days ago had a brief sighting of it, and they generally like to stay within a given area. And that's what we're going to go do. We're going to scratch around there and see where this beautiful little creature is hiding. And then hopefully befriend this beautiful little creature, which would be quite nice for us. What an amazing animal to view if we do get lucky. So on this wonderful morning, if all the young ambassadors for Mother Nature want to communicate with us or drop us a comment or a question, please do not hesitate. That'll be at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And then for everybody else, that'll just be #WildEarth or @FC, just to drop us a comment or any questions you might have about this wonderful and diverse place. And then don't forget to check out that wildearth.tv/explorers for the adventure seekers. All the birds calling. Oh, I get lost at looking in the clouds sometimes. Guess that's where the where the saying comes from, get your head in the clouds. Too beautiful. And what a privilege it is to be able to listen to all those beautiful sounds with you guys. Maya, I couldn't agree more. What a beautiful sunrise. And every morning it is different. And that is a very stimulating thing for us. Obviously change. You'll never find a sunrise that would be the same as the previous. And I mean the clouds at the moment are just making for such a beautiful skyline. These white wispy clouds very high in the air. Those ones there near the Coronaburg range. It's just all entertaining. It's very important to stop and appreciate moments like this. You know, enjoying that sunrise, looking at that light. Obviously, rising before the sunrise is very important for us to enjoy it and to be in the normal cycle of things. You know, sunrise and sunset is just so important for us as humans. Obviously, we are governed by it. You know, having that beautiful star burning like that gives us the ability to see and obviously operate. That's our normal operating time. Unfortunately for some people that work under the cover of darkness, but thank you to the people that do that. Obviously very important jobs like nurses and doctors. But watching the sunrise is such an important thing for myself. And obviously as guides we have the luxury of being out here as early as possible. Taking big deep breaths, almost centering and aligning yourself for the morning's activities. A comment made by FC, it looks like the sky is on fire. Yeah, the way that the light is pushing through the atmosphere at the moment, you'll get these different colors being illuminated and scattered, basically. That's what's actually happening there. Red-crested coron in the background. It's a fairly cool morning, between 18 and 20 degrees this morning. And that breeze that you guys are seeing there and hearing in the mic is obviously going to keep things a bit cooler this morning for a longer period. So with animal activity, they tend to move around a bit more when it's cooler, when cooler conditions are prevailing. Obviously, if it's hot very quickly, they tend to find shelter or go to water and then find shelter. But in days like this is where animal activity is a little bit extended, so to say. And obviously a lot of movement of things. think about little spiders or caterpillars. It's the perfect morning to put out a silk strand to migrate from one tree to another. Birds migrating, got a bit of a tailwind. It's nearly peeking up over that Coronaberg. It's getting very, very bright there. And its big, beautiful round face is just about to peek up over that section of the Coronaberg. And how beautiful you can see all those slight undulations of that mountain. I mean, it looks fairly smooth, but believe me that when you're up there, it's fairly rocky. And just the shape of these mountains is just breathtaking. Beautiful bands and folds. It is definitely an inspirational scene, Carol. I think this is where we live and how lucky we are. I think it is a daily dose of inspiration. But I guess inspiration can be whatever you need it to be. If it's reading, if it's yoga, it's running, if it's giving love. But yeah, it is definitely an inspirational scene. Great comment there, Carol. Just starting to change now, where it's starting to become more blue above us and obviously very, very illuminated around that Coronaberg mountain section. For now, we're going to enjoy this for a little bit longer, and then we're going to travel down south, and once we're in that area looking for that little African wildcat, we'll see you there.
Well, morning everybody. I'm going to keep quiet because it's absolute pandemonium at the moment. There's a herd that is in complete distress, and it's because of a bull that's trying to mate with them. See the bull in the middle there now, and the problem is he's running into the herd, and there is a tiny little baby elephant that he keeps running into, which is causing mass panic amongst this herd. You can see everybody is on edge. Nobody is happy about what's going on. There's lots of kind of leaking from the temporal glands and obviously lots of screaming. But before we get into all of that, I need to say good morning to all of you while there's a kind of hiatus in the chaos. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got myself. I also have somebody shouting on the radio, which is not ideal. But here's a warm welcome to all of you. Like I said, you can see the Ellies now have all of a sudden just settled a little bit, which is good. But we found them because we could hear them screaming. I heard them right at the beginning of the morning, and I thought maybe there was something predator-based that was around. But it's turning out it's bulls that are trying to mate with a cow. And like I say, they are just causing havoc in amongst this herd. The problem with this is being close to the elephants when they're like this is a bit tricky. You've got to be aware of what's going on, because the bulls, when they chase these cows, they just run, and that causes everybody to kind of panic a little bit and to bombshell and run in ways that they potentially shouldn't. But it seems like we've calmed down a bit now, which is good. Shame, girls. Are you being harassed by the boys? There we go. It's just calming down, which is good. There's obviously one female in here that's in estrus now, and the male is a young bull that's chasing her around. And what happens then is sometimes with these females, particularly if it's a younger female, which it looks like, she gets a bit scared, and she starts to run and complain, and that triggers then all of the herd to start getting a little bit uncomfortable, and everybody then starts to run, and kind of it just becomes a lot of chaos, and no one's really sure what's going on. Babies get knocked over, which causes the bigger adults to get involved and get really upset. And this is why often you'll find younger bulls being chased out of herds, because as their testosterone levels increase, so they become more like this, where they start to harass the cows, and that's when the older females deal with it and chase them away. Unfortunately, in this instance, the bulls that are here are a bit too big for the females to be chasing. You can see here on the road, the bull at the back, you see how much taller he stands, and he's still not even a big bull. That's a kind of 20-year-old rather than one of these big 30, 40-year-old bulls that we sometimes see. Do you see how they're sniffing us? Look at that. Quite a lot of indecision in the herd as well. Often when you see elephants stop and when their feet just rock slightly, that's when they're a little bit kind of not sure of what to do and where to go, and who this other kind of foreign object is within the group. Initially, when we arrived and we saw the herd kind of all congregated on the road and screaming, the tiny baby that was in the middle, I thought maybe, just maybe, the elephant had given birth recently, and that was part of it. But then as soon as we saw a bull chasing a cow, then we knew very, very well that it's more mating displays that's taking place. And it won't stop. This male will harass these females the whole day, trying to be able to mate. And you can see these are another two bulls that are on the back end. Let's get, so male elephants generally in mating are sort of starting to mate when they're around 25, sometimes as young as 20, depending on populations of older bulls and where you are. But 25 is generally when you're finding ellies mating, and then all the way through until they reach about 40. Funny enough, the big old bulls, so the ones that get into their 50s, they very seldom are actually breeding. They get out-competed by the younger guys who have a lot more energy and a lot more kind of, I don't know what the word is, pushy about things. And actually a lot of the time these bigger, older bulls get badly injured by the younger ones, who are kind of bent out of testosterone, and because they have bigger tusks, the older bulls, they struggle to be able to kind of get into the right positions, and it's quite common to see younger bulls killing these big old guys some of the time. So it's generally from about 25 onwards. And I actually have a really cool diagram of how elephants mate, because it's super fascinating. A lot of the time people kind of think that ellies have a certain way of mating, and a lot of people don't quite understand the reproductive organs, as you can see that male there is showing us. But I'll show you the diagram in this book because it gives you a really good idea. I'm going to hold it from the top here because it's going to be easier for me to point. But essentially what you've got is, this is a graphic picture of a male mounting a female, but what you can see is that all the sexual organs for elephants are internal but very, very high up. If you look at where the stomach is of these animals, their testes and their kind of ability to mate is all kind of in there. And then they have the genitals that come down and insert here. And you can see how far the sperm's got to travel before it gets in to the actual stomach area. Well, not stomach area, but I mean, if you had to describe it in kind of human anatomy terms, that's where all the reproductive organs for her is way, way, way up. So it's quite a kind of tricky thing to do. The poor cow has to bear the weight of the male, and often that leads to a situation where females can even get badly damaged from this, and it's why you see elephants often mating in water, is just to kind of take the weight off a little bit, as well as to kind of ease the whole sort of situation within the male. But that was absolute chaos. I don't think it's going to stop. We'll follow the herd for a while now and just see if it does. I also want to show you the tiny little baby because it is super, super cute.
Welcome back, everybody. Now we've just found a beautiful dead tree with 2 knob-billed ducks and 2 Birchall starlings in it. I'm going to take a moment to just listen. There's all sorts of noises happening around us. I hope you can hear them. So 2 knob-billed ducks, the one on the left with that big comb on its face is the male, and the one on the bottom right is the female. It's amazing how important it is to actually stop and listen out here. The sounds and the noises can tell you a story in itself. There's a flock of ground hornbills that are calling behind us. I'm going to maybe try and see if we can find them. They're beautiful, particularly if we catch them in a tree calling. So I'm going to turn around.
Good morning everyone. It's been such a wonderful start to the morning, so much happening. Lovely elephants, and that time with Dan as well, and we're at the hyena den, hoping, of course, that June will come through and we'll be able to see the brand new cub. But for the moment, we've just got Corky, little one, and Ribbons too, out and about. And I'm also out and about. It's me, Trishal, and I've got Gert on camera with me. And we are enjoying ourselves because there's no sun beating down and there's also no rain. So that's very, very pleasant. But it seems just like me, the cubs are still waking up. They're present, awake, but not quite there, much like me in the morning. Unfortunately, they don't have any coffee that they can grab to assist them in the waking up process. There's part of another. You just see the ears behind that little mound. That little mound has been the focus of much play at the hyena den. Can you see how bald it is? That little mound, that one, yeah, used to be full of grass and other stuff growing there. And it's suddenly very bald. It has become bald. And they used to play like crazy around that mound. You can even see where they'd walk, where they'd run through. Tumble. I've seen them crash into that thing. Well, maybe later on we'll get to see them having a bit of fun. But for now, it's just Corky and little Corky having some mummy and me time. So I haven't seen any other adults around, and we know that the primary focus today at the den is going to be the hope that June will come so we can see the little cub. Focus as in focus our attention, because there's not much we can do to influence her coming here or not. I hope that it will be more frequent than Corky was when she first got to the den. But perhaps given the rank, June's rank is kind of unknown, but she's not a high-ranking individual. We'll really need to see her interact with Ribbon and Heart to know that, because the interaction I saw with her and Corky was very, very mild. I was really unable to determine who was dominant. In fact, if I had to, I would probably say Heart was a little dominant over Corky, because Corky seemed very nervous. But it was so mild that I wouldn't base a decision on it. But given that June is lower ranked within the clan, maybe she won't come to the den as frequently. Either way, we're going to be here to watch. All right, Tristan is still with those elephants. I hope he's having a wonderful time. In fact, I know he is, because he's been waiting for elephants.
Well, always when you spend time with the elephants, it's wonderful, and it's nice because everything has settled and we're now right in amongst the herd. They've kind of surrounded us now, which is always a nice place to be, just from a point of view that it's one of the most relaxing places, especially when they're feeding. I'm going to keep quiet for a little bit just so that you can hear, because everybody's making a little sound and crunching, and little branches are being broken and leaves being chewed. And for me, it's always just so relaxing to sit and hear the birds and them feeding as well. Hello, boy. Are you coming to say hello? Actually, one of the cows is coming to say hello. As you can see, she's... No, don't touch the car. You're not allowed to do that. Good girl. She obviously has decided she wants a specific bush to eat, which is the one in front, as long as she doesn't throw sticks around. Sometimes they pick up dead sticks and then they throw them. But she's being well behaved, which is good news. Amazing, isn't it? That they have that much trust to approach the way that they did. Now, it's also amazing, isn't it, to sit and listen to them. There's something super peaceful about just hearing their footsteps and their branches breaking. And like Trishala's den sites, you know, you've got a hyena kind of clan, and it's very similar in terms of social structures within elephants. It's also a matriarchal society for the most part. We know that sometimes hyenas can be a male that can lead the clan, but in elephants it's always exclusively females that lead herds like this. But it always amazes me is how there's these hierarchies that develop within elephant herds. It's especially big herds, and you find that there will always be these kind of little family groups, but there is one big matriarch, and she'll be able to dictate what goes on. Now, she doesn't necessarily have the lineage to always be the matriarch. Sometimes you'll find that with females, their daughter might split off and form their own herd. But for the most kind of part, what we see is in smaller groupings is that the matriarch's offspring generally rise to the top and become the sort of matriarchs of the herd going forward once that female gets older. It's obviously a huge time scale that we're talking about. I mean, we know that elephants live for a very long time, and so the change of matriarch is not a fast one, nor is it a regular one. It's something that kind of slowly happens after that elephant has been around for many years. But these two are making me laugh. Typical young ellies pushing each other around and making nonsense, which is what we expect from a lot of these younger ellies. They make me laugh. All right, well, we're going to sit here. We'll see what else happens. I'm trying to see where the tiny little baby is. I haven't seen it yet come past, so hopefully that will make an appearance. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to a feathered friend.
Well, from Elephants with Tristan, I'm sure he will find that baby elephant somewhere along the lines. So we're in this very, very beautiful area, and that sun has now reached far up above the Coronenberg mountain range. We're just watching this little bird because it is giving a call that is continuous. If you use birds, you can use birds as a tool to find carnivores, because if they don't like something within a given area, that means they'll give an alarm call. An alarm call is different from a song call, as in that it is repetitive. And that bird is giving a single constantly. So it does not like, or it is not happy with something in those bushes. And this is the area that we found that little beautiful African wildcat. So I'm trying to scan very carefully into those thick bushes to see if there's any little eyes looking back at us. And these little animals are so sneaky. Yeah, that call is still constant, hasn't stopped. The bird that's calling there is an ant-eating chat. A very prominent bird through Tswalu, and very complex and very important little bird. Oh, I don't know if it is us or if it is a kid, but I don't see anything in that tangled mess. Where would you be hiding? Okay, so I can't see anything in this thick stuff. So what we're going to do... Oh, there's that giraffe. That giraffe has come closer. I see Owen is on it. That's old news for Owen. And they are very curious. He was quite far, and he's... While I'm busy looking for the wildcat, he has moved closer to us. And we've got quite an accumulation of different hoofed ungulates here. We've got the giraffe on our left over here. If you come to the right here, Owen, we've got wildebeest. We have an oryx moving further down there. We have red hartebeest. There's just waves of different species here at the moment. And this is where we have to look very carefully for this elusive little animal. Early morning they would like to sit in the illuminated side of bushes just to warm up and warm up from the chilly evening. So that's what we'll be doing now, is looking on the eastern facing side of bushes, where obviously the sun is illuminated. And this little animal's got this light grey coat to it, and it looks just like a domestic house cat. That is actually where domestic cats stem from, is from the African wildcat gene pool. And I mean, they look, you would mistake it for a domestic cat very easily. But their very light grey, browny colour is very distinctive. And they like to be within bushes. And the hartebeest, beautiful hartebeest. There's a lot more to the east of the reserve right now, where a lot of new shoots have flushed. And if you look at hartebeest, if you have new growth from rain or if you have new growth from fire, your red hartebeest is the first animal to push into that area to utilize that fresh new growth. And this is a bull here. This is a male red hartebeest. It's just hiding. And now that bird has stopped calling. Well, from here we're going to continue looking for this beautiful animal, but we're going to send you over to Tswalu with some snoozy hyenas.
They are snoozing. Kyle, and I also wish you all the best to find your African wildcat. I've had a few sightings with it on Djuma, always very, very brief. The cubs are slowly but surely waking up and exploring. They got a sudden fright. I thought maybe June is coming. They'll get up and look in the same one direction when another hyena comes. It's not like they'll just lie down and it walks around. They really come to attention. So I was hoping that it was June. Lisa, you'd like to know how often June has to feed the cub? It depends. So the cub can actually go maybe 10 days without being fed. But she will generally feed the cub every day if she can. But if she doesn't feed it today and feeds it tomorrow, it's not a huge deal. If she feeds the cub once a week, for example, at this early stage where it would be probably about a month old, but we need to have a good look to see how old it is. At about a month old, unless that cub is used to that kind of feeding schedule, the cub might actually get a little bit distressed, especially since she was probably at a different den when the cub was born, probably the Shibama Road den, and probably with it a lot because she didn't have to see any other adults. That is very cute, Corky. Very cute. So if she's feeding every day, she'll have the normal milk constituents and not put any extra effort into it. And then if she feeds once a week, her milk will be a little bit more protein and fat rich to compensate for that, for the time in between her feedings. Oh, Cocky, are you gonna throw up? It's amusing how the cubs are just staring at her. Oh, Corky. Oh, shame. You know, food is food, unfortunately, even if it's partially digested. Oh, wonderful. There's some elephants down the riverbed. Let's go and see.
Welcome back, everybody. Quite a special little scene here that we found. There's a small herd of elephants that are feeding on the banks of the Timbavati riverbed. And at one point, it looked like they were about to run down the steep bank. But it seems they've kind of changed their minds. You can see there's quite a lot of them spread out in the bank. I think they might have changed their mind. They initially wanted to come down the bank. Maybe they found some softer and sweeter materials to feed on. Look how you see how this one's coming down quite quickly. I wonder if they won't cross. Check it. Coming down with some steam. Maybe push this one almost out the way as well. Or find a good spot. You'll often find animals, and these elephants are no exception into what they've just done. You see how they came quite quickly? And before they get to a steep area or quite a big open area, they'll stop and look and smell and make sure that there isn't danger or something that they don't really want to walk into. You see that trunk up like that, smelling, making sure that there isn't maybe a pride of lions that is waiting in the riverbed here, or something that's unexpectedly waiting for them. Kind of change directions a little bit. It's always amazing how such a big animal can actually come down this steep slope, and I really hope they do show us how to do that. Although it's kind of seems as if they've changed their mind and going to spend a bit of time feeding. Particularly on an overcast day like today, they'll take advantage of the cooler weather to spend as much time as they can feeding, and they don't really have to rest so much. Elephants are huge animals, and they spend very little time resting. I don't know if you can hear that bird in the background, a green wood hippo. Looks like an elephant on the right-hand side might be coming down to cross. Just underneath that tree there, BK, it might come down to cross. She also quickly just put up her trunk to smell before she did. Very interesting, this whole herd came down very quickly, but pumped the brakes very quickly as well. I think they're being extra cautious. I haven't seen some tiny babies, but there are quite a few smaller ones around there. Have a look how arched that one's back is. A sign for a female. I mean, it can often be quite tricky to tell the difference between a male and a female elephant. One of the signs is the arch in that back, with the females having a much deeper arch than the males. Even if you have a look at her head, it's quite square, particularly as they get a bit older. The males will have quite flat heads, and then older females that have got calves, if you look behind their front legs, they've got those very obvious mammary glands if they have got a calf. Quite interesting as well. I mean, one of the very few animals that are like humans like that and have mammary glands underneath their front arms, or front legs, and in our case, our arms. I'm just going to stop and listen quickly. BK, if this elephant on the left here, it's busy scratching up against the tree. RJ, what do elephants do when they sense danger? Watch this one carefully. It's kind of scratching up against the tree, might even shake it. RJ, particularly in a herd like this, if the little ones are in danger, they will make a lot of noise and a lot of commotion, and they'll try and put all the little ones into the middle to protect them. And that is one of the benefits of living in a group like this, is you've got the protection of the older, more experienced, bigger and stronger elephants. So they can make a lot of noise, they'll flap their ears, they'll put their ears out, and make themselves look bigger and more intimidating to whatever it is that's threatening them. And if need be, I mean, it's the last resort because it takes a lot of energy, and elephants also risk injury if they put themselves out into a conflict. So if the last resort comes, they will in fact charge and try and push whatever it is right out of the way. And elephants are kind of right at the top of this pecking order in terms of that, in terms of size and strength. And most animals will make way for an elephant. Look at this one. I wonder if it's not right on a steep slope and it's trying to push and get to this branch. It was initially scratching its backside on that big tree, and with such thick, coarse skin, you could actually hear it quite clearly. It's stopped now. It looks like it's trying to reach to some roots. It seems like these elephants have actually changed their minds in terms of crossing the riverbed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going along the banks, seeing what other interesting things we can find along this riverbed.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I know Tswalu loves watching hyenas, and well, we love watching ellies, so nice to be in amongst our ellie herd. And this is the culprit that was causing all the trouble earlier, is this young fella over here, who's not a big boy at all, but he's definitely the one that's been chasing all these cars around and has, well, been showing everybody that he's a boy. The herd is kind of settled right down, though. I thought for a second there was going to be a little bit of drama again, because he was following a cow down the hill and kind of had that swagger of a elephant that was going to cause trouble, but everything kind of settled again and he's behaved himself. So Cantrell, the purpose of must is just a male elephant going through a heightened level of testosterone when he's actively going to be searching out females to mate with. So it's creating a time in an elephant's life where he's going to ignore just feeding and eating and drinking, and he's actually going to actively seek out opportunities to reproduce, essentially. It's driving him to find females and to continue the species, much like an estrus cycle in a female. You two boys, I'm sure, are going to start pushing and shoving. It's actually quite interesting. There's an elephant that's right on top of a mound in front of us as well. Another bull coming from behind us. There's ellies everywhere. It's a big herd, this, actually. I'm quite surprised. You can see her. She's just dropping off the back of the mound now. It's quite common to see ellies on top like this. They often like to go on mounds because they can find nutritious food up there, whether it be the grasses that are growing. You can see that particular mound is covered in grass, as well as the big knobthorn that is there. That would be probably what she's targeting. Looks like she's sniffing around on that knobthorn, so she's looking for any signs of leaves or things that she can feed off. Now, you might notice a can that is kind of punched into the tree there. So that is a program that's being run at the moment to try and protect particularly knob thorns on Djuma. So what's inside the can is they basically take the can and they nail it to the tree and they fill it with creosote. And the elephants supposedly are not supposed to enjoy the smell of creosote and therefore leave the tree alone. But as you can see there, is that it's not really working very well, is it? I don't know if the creosote is maybe finished in that particular can. It needs to be kind of applied, but they're trying different techniques just to try and see if they can protect some of the larger specimens of trees that we have here, particularly in the case of ones that are under a bit of pressure, like knob thorns. Hi, boys. Isn't it cool that you can hear the grass being broken? Something special about having Ellies walk past like that. One of my favorite ways to spend time in the bush. Right, now you can see two bulls posturing and pushing each other. It sounds like Dev has got two bulls of his own that's also posturing.
Live. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda, ladies and gentlemen. We have two Nyala bulls that we can see in frame at the moment, and they are competing in a very beautiful, quite unique display of dominance to establish their hierarchy. We call it a lateral display. You can see those hairs along the back of their necks are erect, their heads are low, and they are doing a very slow dance of sorts. And it's quite difficult to interpret and to figure out who the winner is, but they are trying to settle their differences without having to fight, which is quite a beautiful thing. My name's Devon, and behind the camera we've got Glenn. We're coming to you for your live safari experience this morning from Phinda Private Game Reserve. And these two Nyala are one of the first interesting things we've managed to find this morning. So we came down to the watering hole, and these two one was drinking and the other one approached. And as he approached, the male that was drinking didn't take too kindly to his advance, so they began lateral displaying. For now, it looks like they are feeding. The hair on the back of the further Nyala is still standing up very straight. Actually, this close one is as well. But it's an amazing technique that they use to settle their differences without having to actually physically fight with one another. And for the most part, it works quite well. We don't often see Nyala bulls actually locking horns with each other. They do this lateral display and establish their dominancy like that. And only occasionally will they lock horns and have to fight it out. I think they are slowly still prancing around each other. You can see the Nyala on the left has got its tail lifted and head held very low. This display, tail on the right's just flicked up. So it seems as if the display is kind of reigniting a little bit here. These two are struggling to sort out their differences.
with their display, so you might find that we are going to see some horn locking. Yeah, Stella, it is a beautiful, beautiful dance to watch. These two bulls are really displaying as much as they can here, putting on their best performance. I'm not sure if anyone here has actually seen, or anyone with us this morning has actually seen a Nyala locking horns, the bulls. It's quite a sight to behold when it does happen. I've only been able to witness it once or twice, that they weren't able to sort out their differences through this display. The Nyala closest to us, if you have a look at just behind his ear there, he's got a big swollen bump on his neck, possibly some sort of infection of the just underneath the skin there. It's quite swollen. As he scratches the other side, you can really see it stand out. And those very characteristic brown socks that they wear, very distinctive of the Nyala. Vince, they are not territorial, they don't scent mark, and you'll often find a number of bulls in the same area. However, they do have a dominancy hierarchy, so they don't control a territory, they don't push other bulls out of the territory. They will follow after herds of females, and when the females are ready to mate, I think that is when this dominancy display is most important for them. They compete with one another for mating rights, and the most dominant Nyala will have the rights then to mate. Glenn, if you pan across to this heron on the bank over here, it's just caught a fish. So we're at this watering hole. Oh, it's going down. So this is a grey heron, got a fish in its mouth, and it's going down. There we can see the bulge in its neck as it swallows it. So that fish is now very much sitting in the head, in the neck, sorry, of that heron. And if you look a little bit further down, you might be able to see a bulge in the throat. So it swallowed that fish and it's going back for another one. If you look carefully in the water around the heron there, you can see all the little bubbles coming up and little disturbances where the fish are breaking the surface of the water. And the heron's cocked its head to the side. So it's using the eyes, which are on the side of its head, to really get the best view. And when it curves its neck right down into that S position, it might be getting ready to strike. So it'll use its neck and its bill to pluck the fish out of the water. And this dam's got quite a lot of small tilapia. And, oh, got one, something small. That was much easier to swallow than the first one. About 15 minutes ago when we arrived at this watering hole, there's a crocodile underneath here somewhere that actually chased this heron. See that heron's holding its head to the side now, trying to get a better view. Maybe the reflection of the water is a little bit interfering, so he's just moving his eyes out the way. Jen, that is a very good question. Lots of bird species have adapted to swallow things that are quite large. So herons, there are all the kingfishers, and all the seabirds as well, like cormorants, gannets. They all catch fish and manage to swallow them without choking. It's an adaptation that they've developed. I'm not sure if you are familiar with a bird species called a bearded vulture. They are probably one of the most impressive and endangered raptors that we've got in South Africa. And they actually eat bone. So they swallow entire pieces of bone and somehow don't manage to choke. So this heron swallowing little fish is doing quite well. They also, birds have got what we call a crop. So down close to where the neck joins the body, there's a space that they fill with food and before it goes into the stomach. And this heron will swallow these fish and they'll go straight into the crop before being digested further. And then just behind the heron, maybe 10 meters or so behind the heron, we've got the crocodile that is now swimming across, coming back around. Glenn, if you could pan across to that. So this crocodile caught a fish earlier as well. So he's hunting the same fish that the heron's after. Had a lunge at the heron, like I mentioned, and the heron had to kind of fly off and move away. But it does seem like it's starting to come around this corner again, back towards where the heron is hunting. Yeah, the head's just dipped under the water. And crocodiles are extremely stealthy hunters. They manage to hide themselves underwater. There we go, watching it disappear. For most animals, they'll have no chance of being able to see this crocodile coming to grab them if they were coming down to drink. We watched some vervet monkeys climbing over the side of this watering hole a little bit earlier. They were coming to, I think they were quite keen on a drink. They were moving directly towards the water, and just as they were about to go down, they saw the crocodile lunge towards the heron, and they decided that they were no longer interested, and they decided to move off. So Jack, birds engage in an activity called preening, which helps them keep all their feathers oiled. They've got a oily secretion in their beak that helps, or their bill rather, that helps them to keep their feathers well oiled and in perfect working condition. It also helps them to straighten all the little bits of the feathers out to make sure that they're in perfect working condition. As far as I know, all birds preen, and definitely all birds that fly a lot will preen. And all these birds that we are sitting at this watering hole this morning will most definitely preen. They kind of like a pre-flight check before you take off in an airplane. It's quite important that you know that everything's working and you're not going to fall out the sky at halfway through your flight. I think very similar for birds. They need to make sure that their feathers are all in tip-top notch so that they are operating at as close to 100% as possible and that they can trust their flight. The crocodile has come back towards this heron now, and it's just dipped underwater, so it'll be really interesting to see if it lunges at it again. Looking around, can't see where it's gone, so I can only imagine it's slowly moving towards the heron. It put its head up in front of the heron maybe a minute ago. It'll be an amazing, amazing thing to see if it does give it a bit of a bash. And these birds are very quick to react and have the element of flight on their side. So although the crocodile might surprise it, the heron is able to get away very quickly. With a quick flap of the wings, it can reverse a good couple of meters. See, the heron's got that beautiful yellow eye as well, and the orange underbill. Then some beautiful streaking down the neck. Linda, herons and other birds, their sense of smell, they say, is quite underdeveloped. And there's been quite a lot of research done into vultures, actually, and how they find different prey or carcasses. And I think the smell test was kind of written off quite early on. It was thought for a while that vultures could smell, that they could smell out carcasses, and that's one of the way they found them. But after some research, it was found that the sense of smell is quite underdeveloped. I see this crocodile is right in front of this heron now. It's maybe maximum 5 meters away. I just saw a little bit of there's the head coming up now, just briefly. And I think it might be moving away from the heron and more into the corner. There are some young crocodile in this watering hole as well. We haven't managed to spot any this morning, but the crocodile's moving towards the heron. The heron's going backwards slowly. You can see its head's moving around, quite cautious. So there's the crocodile's head. The heron knows that there's something there. It's going back. The crocodile's moving forward. All right, no, there we go. Heron way too quick and way too aware for this crocodile this morning, but you can really see how big that croc is now. Those scales on the back, eyes and nose on top of the head, and that long, powerful tail that just broke the surface now. Well, the heron's coming down again. So, bit of a game of cat and mouse that we've got going on here. And we're going to keep moving. We are hoping to find some cheetah this morning. They were seen yesterday afternoon, a mother and her one cub. So we'll carry on for our search for those animals, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Enjoy a few minutes of bliss on this side, and I hope you guys enjoy. Just like this morning, it's very important to take those moments and just appreciate the raw beauty of nature. It's only at those points where you stop and appreciate does it really become magnificent.
As you can see, bless you, Marcel. Marcel's got the sneezes in the back. As you can see, we're still with our Eddies. I haven't seen the tiny, tiny, tiny little baby yet. I don't know where it is. It must be hiding out with one of the females way at the back. We're still kind of at the head of the herd with most of them. And it's very, very relaxed. I'm having the best time with these ellies. We had another bull that came right up to us, and he decided he wanted to sniff and see what we were, and kind of had a look at us and then walked off. So it's been really cool interactions just with the ellies around us, and watching them interacting with each other has been really interesting as well. The cows are giving way to the bulls every time. As soon as the male comes near them, they just change direction completely. The herd, I think, has changed. It was initially moving north. It's then gone straight east, and now they're mobile south. And it's every time a bull approaches, the herd just changes direction slightly to get away from them. But for the most part, it's actually not too bad. There's that commotion and that noise and level of distress that we saw earlier has all but stopped now. There's really very little going on. It's all quite calm and relaxed at this stage. So, David, you're asking where the heart is located on an elephant. Now, what we need is this ellie to come through that bush a little bit so I can show you a little bit better. But essentially, the heart is much like humans. It's on the left side of their body, behind that front sort of shoulder blade. So if you look where the ear goes, like I said, it'll be nice if the ellie comes forward. If you look where the ear kind of goes up and it sort of just passes where the shoulder is, if you take that and you take a line where the leg goes down, just behind that leg line is where the heart is on an elephant. So it would be very similar to us if you had to take a side profile of us where our arm kind of joins our body. Just behind and down is where the heart is on ellies. It's just obviously a lot larger than what we see on a human scale. But the anatomy of an elephant, other than the internal reproductive organs, is pretty similar to humans. Generally, the kind of organs and where they're laid out would be comparable to that of a human. Now, what I'm going to try and do for you quickly is, if you look at this elephant, Marcel can do it. I've got a little laser pointer, a little green dot. So what I want you to look for is the green dot on the elephant's skin. So that would be where the heart is. We just obviously don't want to shine in the eyes. Come through the bush so I can show you. Hopefully it will stop here. But if you look for the green dot, you see there where that green dot is? That's roughly where the heart is on this elephant. It's basically situated just behind that front shoulder blade, which is what I was trying to show earlier. It's much easier with the laser pointer. It helps you guys to be able to see what we're talking about. But you can see how the herd is kind of splitting into different groups now. It's quite nice. They're all sort of spreading out and having a good feed. And there's a beautiful big cow over there. Okay, well, we'll stay with our ellies. I'm having the best time with them. In the meantime, let's send you across to a little baby crocodile.
Comes. Welcome back to the far side of this watering hole, and we have managed to find a whole number of small little baby crocodiles. I did a quick count using my binoculars and I counted 40, which is absolutely incredible. They got a little bit of a fright when we came driving past and jumped into the water, and you can see them all are wet now and they are starting to all come back out onto the bank. So after maybe a bit of a chilly night, being cold-blooded reptiles, they are coming back into the sun now to warm up and begin their day with some sunbathing. I think it's a pretty fine way to start the day. For 6:45 in the morning, it's what a treat to be out and about in the sun. Now, all these little crocodile are of a similar size, so I would say they're probably from the same clutch or nest, as it's known for a crocodile. And that crocodile that we saw not 5 minutes ago is perhaps the mother of this clutch. At this watering hole where we're sitting now, that crocodile was the only large one I saw, and they have been known to stick around quite close to their young. Me and Glenn were just discussing about the possibility of her having that altercation with the heron and not being too excited about the heron being there. because the heron might be just maybe a little bit big enough to harm some of her young here. So that is a potential as to why the crocodile was trying to chase that heron away. I haven't seen crocodiles chasing heron like that before. Boomshack, it is a bit of a crocodile convention here. They're all lying on top of each other and really making the most of this early morning sun. So they're on the eastern side of this little embankment that we can see now. So the sun's really baking straight onto them, and all in direct sunlight. As they start getting really warm, you might see some of their mouths start to open. There's one or two that I can see that aren't really facing us, that have got their mouths open. And they do that to cool down. So they've got blood vessels in their mouths that run much closer to the surface than in the rest of their body. They've got that thick, tough outer hide that's very typical of crocodile. So it's not easy for them to lose heat through their backs and through their skin. So they open their mouth and manage to lose heat through those veins and arteries that run much closer to the surface in their mouth. So 50, the survival rate is very dependent on the area. I'm not sure offhand how successful crocodiles are. I know that they don't lay clutches every year. And these have been the first little crocodiles that have been at Phinda, at this watering hole, for a couple of years now. And they have been here for a few months now. We started seeing them maybe a month or two ago for the first time. And just from what we've experienced and witnessed here, I don't actually think there are any that have disappeared. So this clutch is doing extremely well. Maybe the mother's instinct to chase the heron away is keeping them a little bit more safe. I imagine other big birds like fish eagles also pose a threat to these guys, and maybe even some other big raptors that have got strong, powerful talons, but their little crocodiles are quite sharp, and I think they manage to escape those predators by ducking straight back into the water as soon as they sense any trouble coming. They'll also spend a lot of time around the water's edges and in shallower sections that have got lots of reeds, and by doing that they manage to stay out of the way of any bigger fish. But we don't have any fish of a size that would be able to eat any of these crocodiles in this dam here. We are going to leave this sighting now and go to Ngala, to our watering hole there. Myself and Glenn are going to hang around at this watering hole for a little bit longer though. There seem to be some interesting developments happening here. So we'll send you off to Ngala to have a look what's happening around those watering holes, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Kind of looking for some food in the morning. So it's quite interesting. It's on its own. I wonder if it's not looking for a mate at the same time. And I mean, these will mate for life once they do find a partner. But this is a seasonal pan. I mean, Dev has been looking at little crocodiles and being lots of them and having a low survival rate. This watering hole is only filled up in the past few weeks. And it's a birding hotspot. So this little grebe has only just arrived as well. I've never seen it in this watering hole. And because I'm quite interested with birding, I'll come and have a look here quite frequently. And those little crocodiles, I mean, depends how little they are. If they get the chance to take this little grebe on the surface, they'll definitely take it. And that'll go quite a long way to ensuring their survival, is finding a constant meal like that. I'm going to stick around here as well. I mean, listening out particularly for specific bird calls. In the past few weeks, we've been really treated with some bird sightings, some unique and rare bird sightings. One which would have to be a highlight would be a rufous-bellied heron, which we saw here. I'm going to have a good look. I'm sure it's still around, but quite secretive birds. We're quite far out of their distribution up here at Ngala as well. So it's definitely a first recorded ever here. And might even be a first ever in this part of the Lowveld, which is quite special. Malachite kingfishers as well hanging around here. This little grebe is just gone. So I'm going to quietly just move forward, try and do it as quietly as I can. See if we can't get another look at that little grebe. Or just, I'm going to keep putting my binoculars on the banks, in the thicker areas, try and see if we can't find maybe a dwarf bittern. Saw one of them the other day here. Let's see, here's this little grebe. You see the denser foliages on the banks as well. That's kind of where we're going to be looking. See if we can maybe see a heron or a dwarf bittern. Green sandpiper we saw here the other day. These are all pretty special birds. I mean, this little grebe moving around. Last night this pond was full of frog activity. I mean, that little grebe must be looking for tadpoles or smaller insects that are under the water, and of course it's going back to where we came from. But while that grebe keeps going, I'm going to go a little bit further here as well. Keep checking in the thicker areas here and listening very carefully to see if we can't hear anything. So I'm actually going to just ask BK to put this up there, that white nest. I don't know if it's the bars in the way. Can you see it? A bit forward. Let's just try and coordinate this quickly. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, we're in the right place. So what we have there is a foam nest tree frog's nest, essentially. And you see how it's in the tree? That tree is right above the water. And we were just talking about frogs and tadpoles, and last night at this pond becoming alive with it, and that little grebe moving around looking for tadpoles to feed on. This nest will be made by a male frog, in which he takes his back legs and he'll kind of rub them together, creating this foam, and it'll stick to the branch like that, and the female will lay her eggs in there, and you can see it's quite dense and quite thick. The eggs will be in that foam. They'll be protected in there and out of danger. They'll also get fertilized in that foam. The male will deposit quite a lot of semen in that foam, and that'll fertilize the eggs. And once the eggs hatch, the tadpoles wriggle around, and once they wriggle around, they just drop straight into the water. Quite an interesting and unique survival mechanism. So I'm going to stick around here. I'm really looking for some special birds. I'd love to show you one or two of them this morning, but I'm going to send you to Tristan with a herd of elephants that is surrounding him. Good luck, Tristan.
Always good to be birding at this time of the year, particularly at little waterholes. Lots to look for, all the migratories that start to arrive. As you can see, we're still with our ellies. Here comes one of the bulls. This is the curious one. He's got only one tusk on his right side, and he's got a leaky eye. I don't know what's wrong with his eye, but there's a bit of moisture coming out of it. It's not from his temporal gland there, but he's following this cow all over the place. No, don't poke her with your tusk. Don't be naughty. Yes, hello. We've said hello already. You and I have... Hello, boy. What you want? Why are you sniffing us? He's very cheeky, this guy. He's poking all these ellies with his tusks. He's come and checked us out. He's shaking his head at us. And generally just being a little brat. But you can see he's not a hugely developed bull. He's still got a way to go until he's going to be big enough to really kind of challenge. He's the same size as the cows, which means the cows don't really take his nonsense too much. Look at this. Look at the little greeting from the little one. That's cute. So our Lorimer, trumpeting sounds, and whether or not they're only used during periods of high emotional stress. So yes, you only really hear elephants trumpeting when they're in a mating period, so when they're being harassed by bulls, little babies that are trying to intimidate something. So that's the trumpet sound, or even adults when they're chasing something like wild dogs or lions. The really loud screaming is slightly different. That can indicate like a baby that wants milk that's not getting it, then they'll scream rather than trumpet. But trumpeting is really for when they are distressed and they are irritated and they're trying to show as much as possible that there is a major problem and that they are not happy about it. That's kind of what trumpeting is reserved for. But yeah, you don't hear them doing it just for the sake of it. Sometimes, although I say this, sometimes I have heard ellies trumpeting in water when they're playing, and that's not a sign of distress. That's just sheer enjoyment. So I have had trumpeting ellies in water, but again, that's when they play fighting, so maybe it is a protest of being pushed or shoved by another individual, or they're just really happy in a pool. And much like kids, when kids get in pools, their escalation of noise levels is quite intense, particularly if they're in a group together. So I'd imagine it's very similar for the ellies, is that they have a really good time and they end up making quite a bit of noise. But everybody is very quiet now. We haven't even had any grumbles lately, no sort of sounds of them making a bit of noise or anything like that. They've been very, very relaxed. Saying that now, there's one grumbling next to me. I always love spending time with ellies like this, especially after a period of very little elephant activity. So we haven't seen many ellies at all since I've been back. I've seen, I think, more leopards than I've seen elephants since being back, which is a weird thing. So it's really nice to have this herd this morning and just to sit in amongst them. It's one of my absolute favorite things. It's something that I wish every person in the world could experience at one point, to be in amongst a relaxed herd of ellies. There's just something about it that you drift off into a different place when you in amongst them. All right, well, we'll sit with them a little while longer. I still want to try to find the little tiny baby and see how it's doing. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Dev with the crocodile and the heron.
Welcome back to Phinda and to this heron that we've got here. It did the most remarkable thing now. There's a hippo that's just out of shot, I think, to the right. And this hippo is moving across the watering hole. And the heron came flying across, landed on the hippo's back as it was walking through the water, and managed to grab a fish. I think this hippo might get out the water now. That will be a very cool thing to see as well. The hippo's back, as we just commenting earlier, covered in scars and scratches. But an amazing little cooperation there with heron landing on that hippo's back. Not quite symbiotic, because I don't think the heron achieves any benefit of having a heron riding on its back, but it did seem relatively, or not relatively, completely unfazed by having a heron riding on it. Hippos are actually grazers, so for those of you that don't know, they feed on grasses. And this hippo now has gotten out the water. They do this usually in the evening. Oh, if you look at its back left leg, it's covered in blood. I wonder if it's got some sort of wound there. Yes, there's a little chunk, a little hole in the back of his leg there. And that looks extremely painful. Quite a lot of blood. I imagine that's a deep hole, and it looks very much like a puncture wound. So, like something long and sharp has gone and stabbed it there. I think that might be maybe another male hippopotamus from this watering hole that he came into contact with. They might have had a fight, and by him leaving and having that nasty wound on his back leg, I imagine that he came off second best, unfortunately. So back to these small little crocodiles over here. I believe there are a number of interesting questions coming through, so keep sending those through and we'll try get to as many of them as we can. That hippo's moved off into the distance, into the bush. We can't see him anymore. Catherine, we're going to have to search for that. Hey? It's a clutch of little youngsters like this, and crocodiles don't necessarily aggregate. They will spread out as food availability becomes scarce. If the food availability is quite high, I know in the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, where you have those amazing river crossings of hundreds and thousands of wildebeest and zebra crossing rivers, the crocodile density in those areas is quite high. These crocodiles are now basking in the sun though, and I believe crocodiles sunning themselves together like this is known as a bask of crocodiles, which makes complete sense. The groups of hippos that we have are known as pods of hippos, which is also quite an interesting collective noun. But quite adequate that this should be called a bask. They are sunning themselves and basking in the golden rays of the sunshine this morning. We are going to stick with them for a little while. Every now and again when something comes past, that hippo kind of came walking past here and a couple of the little crocodiles jumped back into the water for protection. I can only assume they were disturbed, and using the water is one of their strengths. Linda, the animals that will predate on these little crocodiles are not that many. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got the bigger birds that might snatch them. I think if there are any large snakes around, maybe a python, we have African rock pythons that are here. I think they will, a big one anyway, will definitely try and grab one of these little crocodiles if it gets a chance. And I've heard stories of animals that feed on eggs. I think that is maybe when this clutch of crocodiles is at the most vulnerable, when they are still in their eggs and they are still buried. The things like water monitors, if there are any jackals in the area, any mongoose, they all will eat eggs and quite happily go hunting for eggs. So I think probably the most vulnerable stage will be at the egg stage, and to things like water monitors, mongoose, maybe jackal. And if a clutch of eggs gets dug up by some sort of predator, I think it'll be a bit of a free-for-all of other predators coming in and snacking on the very nutritious eggs that will then be available to them. But it would require an animal digging them up first. Crocodiles and hippopotamus do sometimes come into conflict as well. Hippos have got those massive big teeth and are extremely powerful large creatures, and they are feel quite vulnerable as well. So when there are young hippopotamus in the pod, crocodiles will sometimes take an opportunity to try attack that young hippo and eat it. And if the adults feel that crocodiles are coming too close and potentially threatening their young, they will try to kill the crocodiles. But this is quite a rare occurrence. We don't see it happening too often, I don't think. I remember seeing it once or twice in a David Attenborough documentary. look quite closely at some quite closely at some of these smaller crocodile, you can really see the webbing in their feet. And you can see proportionate to their body length how big their tails are. So they use those webbed feet and long, strong tails to swim. They're using them already now, and as they become adults, they'll continue using those to propel themselves through the water really quickly. There's even a couple more now that have opened up their mouths and are bathing in the sun. It's starting to get quite warm here, and I imagine in the next half an hour or so much more of them will have their mouths open and will be self-regulating or thermoregulating, as we call it, when an animal uses some sort of technique to keep its body cool. The temperatures up here in northeastern KwaZulu-Natal get quite extreme. In the height of summer, we have temperatures between 40 and 45, and extremely important for these animals all to be able to have techniques and little tricks up their sleeve to keep themselves cool when they do it. Animals like the birds struggle a little bit. You can imagine being covered in a coat of feathers is quite a hot experience when it gets nice and warm. And what a lot of the birds will do, in particular the cormorants and the herons, is they'll open their mouths and flutter their throats. So they very rapidly will move their throat outwards and inwards. It gives it a very much a fluttering effect, and they do that to pump air in and out of their throat. And because they've got such long necks, it helps them, quite similar to the crocodiles with the blood vessels close to the surface. It'll help cool them down. If we pan across to the right here, we've got a wildebeest that's now coming down to drink. We've seen those big crocodiles in this watering hole, and crocodiles, we all know, are quite opportunistic, and that crocodile that we saw chasing the heron was very large. An animal like a wildebeest would most definitely be on the menu for them. But these animals that come and drink here during the day are extremely aware of the presence of crocodiles and are quite skittish most of the time when drinking. You can see this wildebeest is very much drinking from a little corner of this watering hole, and not just out in the open at any point. And while he drinks, he'll be keeping his eye, both of his eyes, peeled for any movement in the water. A lot of other predators will also use the watering holes to hunt. There he's up now. Yeah, you can see how skittish he is. He's not keen on staying around here for too long. He's going to move off to the left. He might move off completely, or if he has decided that he hasn't had quite enough to drink now, find another little spot that's perhaps a little bit more protected to drink from. Standing, having a look around there. So this is a big male wildebeest. He looks like he's had enough now, and he's heading back off maybe to some grasslands to forage for the day. Big wildebeest aren't the cutest animals, but young wildebeest can be very sweet looking. And we are going to send you back to Tswalu, who has got one of those for you.
This thing is brand new. Brand new. I would say just a couple hours old. You can see the umbilical cord is still hanging from it. And it's also very wet. say a couple hours though, because its legs are dry, so it's at least been exposed to the air for some time. But at the top of it is still quite wet. Oh, actually, maybe even not. Maybe even just half an hour. It's still wobbly. Wildebeest can get on their feet within minutes of being born. This one's definitely on its feet, but it's unsteady. How they're all protecting the youngsters by keeping them in the center. And look at that umbilical cord. That would get stiff and rigid after a few days, even if it's still hanging on. You can hear the and then it also alarmed us. That was the very loud huff that you heard. See, look at that one's umbilical cord is still there, but it's all stiff and dry. It's a much older calf by, I would say, a week or so. Binos out to have a closer look. Yeah. Her whole birth canal area looks still very wet and quite red. I feel like we might have just missed it. This looks like the herd that we normally see on quarantine that had the one calf. Now there's three. It's very usual for them to kind of group together and protect the youngsters, and especially if there's one that's brand new. They don't want to be in the obvious place. They want to keep together and make sure that everybody is safe to allow the new life into the world. Too gorgeous. There's one other female that I think is possibly pregnant. She's quite large, so maybe this herd will have 4. That would just be lovely.
Hopefully, but isn't this just the cutest sight ever? There's one that has shown the ultimate display of confidence that an elephant can show by lying down right next to us. And 2 little ones are coming and playing. And one has decided, I'm king of the mountain. And so, no, I think... That's super cute. Look at that. Isn't that special? For an elephant to lie down next to you, like I say, is the ultimate display of an elephant being trusting in your presence, because It's when they're at their most vulnerable, as you can imagine. Lying down like this, it takes them a little while to get up. They generally like to be on their feet if they feel like there's something foreign. So just us spending a long period of time with them, it just goes to show what eventually can happen. And I always say this, particularly with elephants, it's the one animal that really applies to, is the longer you spend time with them. Look at that. That one is off its feet. You silly sausage, what are you doing? You can't go and lie on the back of the other one. Silly little Ellie. But the longer you spend time with elephants, the more they understand that you're not something that's trying to disrupt the herd, and the more likely you're going to be able to watch behavior that is different or fascinating within the herd. When you sit for long periods, they then start to do things that are far more natural to them. So when you first arrive, often elephants will pay attention to you. They obviously are aware that you're there. They kind of analyze, what is this big object that is now suddenly in amongst us? But as you spend more and more time, so they then start to understand that you're not really a threat, and then they go about their own business. And so since we've been with them, we've seen the herd completely splinter, now coming back together again. We're seeing animals lying down, we're seeing animals feeding, we're seeing animals interacting. Everything is starting to kind of be a lot more natural within them. And it's one thing that I always try and stress to anybody that goes on a safari is take in the time and take time to spend with a certain species of animal. Don't just rush around, because this kind of thing is something that you'll only get if you sit for a long period with them. And elephants are fascinating creatures. It's not boring to sit amongst them. You constantly are wowed by the fact that you've got these massive animals around you. There's social interactions that they have. Even just sitting and listening to them feeding is special. So I think, oh, okay. That's one form of defense when others are climbing on you, is to just pass serious amounts of wind to chase them away. That's what just happened now. The one Ellie was on that one's stomach and ended up passing gas. Shame. Did you get bullied by these younger ones? Were you just wanting to have a nap? You look like you've got lots of sass about you. Maybe it's one of Susan's cousins from up north. All right, well, that was super cute. We're going to just stay with them. Like I say, there's just so much to watch here and so many cool things happening. Hopefully it'll continue to happen and that they'll eventually make their way down to a waterhole.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply. WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We're still sitting here with this Wildebeest herd. just to try and get a glimpse of that little one again. It keeps going to the front legs to suckle. Just too cute. It's the one with the shaky legs at the back there. You can see that they're this tawny color. They haven't taken on the adult coloration. They'll only do that at about 2 months. They'll start to change. For now, they need to blend in very well with the environment when they are lying down and curled up into little balls like they are right now. One of its eyes was still sticky when we had a look earlier. It's just amazing. So many new babies. Jude's new baby, Wildebeest babies. Lots of chicks around, little chicks. It is the season for all things new, all this new life. Still only see tiny little legs. Come out. Oh, there's a little bit of a face. Oh. Still unstable. Tiny thing. All from one baby cuteness little herbivore to another. Let me send you to Tristan and his elephant.
Indeed, and can you see how all the elephants have come together? Now, earlier I was telling you that there was a tiny baby, and I actually think that this baby was born just last night because it is hugely wobbly and there is this massive grouping of elephants that is just sitting around it and it's trying to kind of get its feet, and maybe that's what all the commotion has been about. It wasn't a mating thing, but more the fact that there's a brand new member of the herd that's in amongst them. Do you see how there's that little congregation? And there's all these elephants that are just staying very, very close, and the baby is just in front of the herd on the bottom left. You'll just see its head every now and then kind of poking through down that area there. It is minute, this little one. It's really tricky to see it in amongst all those legs, but it is in there and it's being herded by the rest of them. And you see how tightly packed they are? Very different to what we saw earlier up with the rest of the elephants that were kind of loosely sort of arranged. You can just see its bum moving around inside. They're really tricky to see. It eventually will come out and we'll get a better view of it, but it's little baby, and the whole herd is fussing over it and is smelling it and checking it. And so I think that this little Ellie, with all the vocalizations that we heard during the course of the night and this morning, I think this little one was only born last night, and that's why everybody is so kind of aware of its presence, and why there's such a huddle around such a tiny little calf at this stage. I'm trying to actually make out where it's gone now because there's so many little ones in there, plus the adults. It's difficult to see where the tiny one is, but it's definitely very small. We had a brief view of it just now. And it still looks like it's got bits of afterbirth on it. It's dry, like that wildebeest, but it definitely looks like there's still kind of traces of it there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around. I'm not going to go too close, but we're going to go around and just try and get you a view of the kind of females. If we go up this way, it's quite open, and it means we don't have to kind of go through too much of a thicket. I also just want to go past this area because the whole herd was sniffing in one little section here, so I want to just see if there's any sign of afterbirth or anything like that. No, it's just where they defecated. There's no sign of afterbirth there. But let's just see. Amazing to watch though. Like I say, the social interactions of these guys is absolutely fascinating. I love how the whole herd is just around just to protect this tiny little one and make sure that it is nice and safe. And so we're just going in nice and slowly into this little gap in the hope that little baby will be visible somewhere here. So it should just be in amongst all these feet. And this little group that you've got right here. There it is. I can see it. You see it there? Just in between all of them. Look, you see it there? It's still got the umbilical cord attached. Tiny, tiny, tiny baby. I'm pretty sure that was born in the early hours of this morning. It would really explain why there's been so much commotion, why so many bulls have arrived. There'll be a lot of pheromones in the air, and why the herd is just packed around it so tightly. When a baby's been walking for a few days, the herd is actually seriously kind of relaxed about it. They let that little baby roam, but you can see they're keeping it right in the middle because they know that one is still very vulnerable. Look, it's still trying to work out how to walk. You see, look, it's falling. Isn't that just so cute? Amazing. Shame, little one, are you trying to work out how to stand? You can see little bits of blood on the left of the leg there. So that will be bits of afterbirth. That's there. Oh, that is cute. Hello, little one. Now, the reason why I say it was early hours of the morning is because if it had happened when we arrived under all that commotion, that little baby wouldn't really be standing properly just yet. You see how it's still trying to find its feet? Also, it's been already shown where the teats are, so mom has already shown it how to drink. And normally what happens when they give birth is the baby falls to the ground, and then the adult will stand up, and all of these others will come running in. And from there, they actually start to pick up the little baby with their trunks, and they prop it up, and they actually hold it a little bit so until it finds its feet. Once it's found its feet, you'll find that the female will actually guide that little baby to her teats so that it can suckle. And if it's struggling to stand, she'll often lie down, and with her trunk, she'll pull that baby to her, and the baby can actually sit and drink and get its first little bit of nutrients and nutrient-rich milk. And then you find that it starts to kind of stand up quite quickly after that. But you see how protective they are. Every single elephant is just wrapped around that baby, and that will be one little family grouping. So it'll be mother with her offspring around, and maybe even her closest kind of relatives that will be packed around that little baby. And the instinct to protect it is huge. And what's happening is the rest of the herd, is what we've seen, is just feeding around. And that's why I was saying it's strange that they keep changing directions. And I thought maybe it was from the bulls, because every time a bull would walk in, they would change slightly. But now it explains why this herd is not moving out of this area, is they are biding time for this little one to get its feet and get its strength. And so everybody's just in a holding pattern, feeding, and they're just moving in circles around this group, making sure that these guys give the chance for this little baby to be able to start to get its feet and to be able to walk with the herd and get nutrients in it. It's amazing. That's so cool. Always special when you see new life like this. Now, it is typical with elephants to give birth during the night. They actually give birth more at night than they do during the day, for some reason. No one's exactly sure why. So it's common that this was born in the dark hours. It's not an unusual thing, but amazing that it's kind of, we've been able to find it. I wasn't sure, and I was wondering why we hadn't seen it when we had been parked with all these other elephants, because normally as elephants move, so the whole herd kind of comes in that direction. We just weren't seeing a group of elephants arriving, and I kept seeing their ears down this area and thought, well, maybe they just found some food down here. But now it explains it and why they're so tightly packed. Where are you, little one? There we go. Look at those little wobbly legs. Shame it's getting a little dust bath inadvertently by the rest. See the umbilical cord hanging down as well? Very wobbly on those legs. Oh, that is cute. Isn't it amazing to think that an animal that can potentially live 70 years, you're seeing its very first day in life? I think it's amazing to me. It's always a very special treat when animals are relaxed enough and trusting enough to let you see them in their most vulnerable state. And when a mother has a newborn like this, she's often at her most vulnerable. She's got bulls around her that have been harassing her, and so this is probably for her a very, very tough time, but she's allowing us in. The rest of the herd is very relaxed with our presence, and I think that is where it becomes so incredible as a guide, when you spend so many hours out here and then you get a moment like this where a wild animal is allowing you the most intimate view into its life that you could possibly have, the kind of arrival of its little one. Absolutely fascinating. And I reckon the dust bathing that you're seeing is partly for the adults, but also partly for that baby to start covering up that scent of their afterbirth, because hyenas will often follow that, and lions even. So the more sand they're throwing on that baby, the more it's going to be sticking to any bit of afterbirth on it and just drying it out and making sure that it doesn't smell as much. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Shame, little one. You are battling to stand. All right, as the legs close in and close off its face, we're going to send you off, I think, to Dan or Dev, one of the two, to one of the Ds, and hopefully they'll have something interesting for you.
We carried on with our search for these cheetah this morning, and one of the other rangers, deer vaults, managed to find them for us. So quite different to those crocodiles that we saw that were sunbathing. These two cheetah are doing their best to stay out of the heat. It's now 7:30 and very warm here at Phinda. There's a bit of a breeze, luckily for them though, and they've positioned themselves just on the downside of a slope of a little termite mound, in the shade of a cluster of trees. This little cub, or little youngster rather I should say, is a daughter of the mother. So the mother's sitting on the right. You can see the head sizes, there's a distinct difference. Coloration as well, the mother's quite a bit lighter and she's looking around. And the youngster is sitting on the left, lying down on the left. So these cheetah are having a rest. They moved not too far from where they were seen last night, possibly looking for opportunities to hunt or just looking to keep moving. If we can tell with cats when last they ate roughly, or how much they ate, by looking at their stomachs and how concave or convex they are. And these two are kind of somewhere in the middle. So they maybe had something small to eat in the last 12 to 24 hours. They're not too hungry at the moment, and they're taking this opportunity now as the day heats up just to rest in the shade. Can imagine for a mother cheetah, she will need to catch a lot more food now than she usually would, because she's got this youngster to feed as well. And the youngster's just sitting up now and grooming. Cheetah are quite vulnerable to lots of different predators. We saw about a week ago now, this mother, unfortunately in a tragic event, lost her other youngster, the sibling of this young female, to a crocodile. But that's not the only threat that they face. They are also needing to keep a constant lookout for other bigger predators like lions and leopards. And for that reason, when they lie down, often they will sit with, just like the mom's lying now, with her head propped up. And what that does is it just elevates her sensory organs a little bit above the grass. Her eyes are she's still able to scan around like she's doing now. Still keep an eye, an ear, and a nose on all the happenings of the things around her. Now, the little termite mound that they're using is also another technique that cheetah use just to be more aware of what's going on around them. So just a little bit of elevation, head propped up like this female's head is propped up, and they are much more aware of any sort of animals coming in to hurt them. We're going to quickly go back to the elephants now. Some very interesting things going on.
As you can see, there's commotion. There's a bull that's come in and he's chasing a cow around, and it's causing a bit of a stir. Now the baby is just here off to our right. But listen to the talking. All the other elephants are coming. You see all the other bulls are arriving now. Shame these cows and the sub-adults are trying their best to protect this little one as much as possible from these big males that are pushing around. Settle down, guys. Come on. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Jay, you say it's so amazing to see them protect the baby. Hello, little one. Are you coming to say hello? Guys, it is right next to us. When I say right next to us, I mean they are literally, hello little one, welcome to the world. That is ridiculous. Absolutely amazing. It's okay. We're not going to do anything to your baby. You see how they're shepherding it? Look, watch how they move this little one. So they have all the adults around and the bulls are kind of left behind and everybody protects them. Now the baby's right in the middle and everyone hustles and keeps the baby upright and just guides it along. And all the bulls are then left at the back. And you see how everybody comes back around again? Amazing. The protective instincts of mother elephants is fascinating. And I think what's happening is the bulls are being attracted because obviously this female, as she's given birth, she's releasing all kinds of pheromones at the moment. And these guys are picking up on that, and it's probably to them very intriguing. Maybe it smells like, something that they want to investigate, and that's what's attracting the attention. It is one of the most fascinating looks into elephant life that we've just had right now. And to add to it, it's now starting to rain just to make the mood even more crazy. But I can't believe how close they brought that little baby to us. When I say close, I mean they were literally, if I put my hand out where the stick is, I don't know if you can see, there's a stick right here. I mean, I can almost touch that. That's where the baby was, which is ridiculous. Normally they would have guided it away, and we parked behind this bush just to give us a little bit of kind of protection from them so that they wouldn't have to worry about us. But for some reason they decided that's the gap they wanted to bring the little baby through, and we're quite relaxed with us actually, which was absolutely amazing. But that's as special a moment as you can ever have.
Welcome back to the live view of these cheetahs here. We are just gonna carry on sitting with them. There's some beautiful bird calls happening around us, sounds of the bush. And we're going to sit with these two cheetah now for 2 minutes or so and just take in the sounds of what's happening around us. Always so special just spending time with these cheetah here. We're gonna stay with them for a little while to see if there are any changes.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, everybody. Now, what we have here is something quite incredible, actually. This is a rufous-bellied heron. Have a look at it before it flies away. I'm going to try and explain as much as we can. It's kind of like a purplish at the bottom there, yellow legs. It's doing quite a lot of grooming, and it's standing in an amazing spot. A very shy bird, and this bird I hung around this watering hole looking for this one specifically. It was the first time it's ever been seen here at Ngala, and potentially even ever in the Lowveld. We need to go and do a bit more research on that. But super, super, super special. For all the birders out there, I mean, this might even bring you here to come and see this one. The only place in South Africa that you really consistently or will see this is close to Phinda, actually. So I will show you a little distribution of where it is. I'm just going to take advantage while it is here and standing on that branch, cleaning itself and grooming, to really absorb and watch what it is. See that? Maybe it's going to fly off now. You often see it on the banks, kind of moving around, looking for food. And that includes frogs mostly, fish and insects as well. Yes, I cannot believe the view of this. We saw it for the first time. There were a few birders in the back of the vehicle and they nearly lost their minds, in fact. We saw it kind of quick little flash of purple when it flew away, which brought us towards what it is. So while we're there, I'm going to ask Beeks to come towards the book particularly, and I'm going to try and show you exactly what makes it so special. So have a look at what it is first here. It's this one, this bird over here, the rufous-bellied heron. You can see it over there. But most importantly, now, Beeks, I don't know how easy it is going to be for you to zoom in on this map of South Africa. So have a look. All the areas in green are the places where you kind of will see it more consistently. The only really place that you'll see it is in northern Botswana. Have a look. Pretty much the entire country of South Africa is unshaded. The only places that got a tiny bit of green is in these eastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, where Phinda would be. I remember seeing one at Phinda, but for the Lowveld, where we are around about over there, it's almost unheard of to see it here. And that's what makes this so special. So I'm going to ask BK to go back to this bird just to appreciate what it is. I promise you it's quite exciting for me, and I'm sure there are lots of people who are, because we told a whole lot of people that we saw this, and they actually didn't believe us. So I'm super glad we managed to get it on live TV. Have a look at it looking down, looking for some frogs maybe moving around. This is that same watering hole where we had that little grebe, and there was lots of frogs calling last night. And I'm sure it's going to spend the rest of the season here, which is incredibly lucky, and we're super fortunate to see it. We had a big birding day the other day where you have a 24-hour period where you have to find as many birds as you can within a 50-kilometer radius of your lodge or where you work. And this popping up on our list, I promise you, people, they were very skeptical of us. Oh, and geez, while we're sitting here as well, quite a few buffaloes have actually just come and joined us. They gave me quite a big fright, actually. There's the one on our right-hand side over there. So there's one on the right on the road. There's one that's just right in the road as well. They might even come down and have a little wallow. And I'm sure they're actually going to chase that heron away. So the timing is absolutely perfect. For those birders, I'm sure you very excited to see that heron, and there it's actually just flown off now as well. So great timing. Here come the buffalo to have a drink and possibly a wallow as well. I mean, it's quite overcast. It's not like it's warmed up quite a lot. And that heron, as soon as it saw the buffalo, it kind of went into doing what it normally does, into the thick parts. Let me move forward a little bit. It looks like these buffalo are going right into the watering hole. And that just shows you quite how shy that rufous-bellied heron can be. Let's try and do this. Oxpeckers coming through. Quite amazing to see them walk straight through the watering hole. I mean, they're taking advantage of maybe cooling down a little bit, drinking some water, getting from point A to point B. Cuckoo calling there. I'm having a drink. These all look like males. They are indeed all males. And I wonder if they haven't separated from a big herd that's been moving through in the past couple of days, kind of taking advantage of this area. There's lots of water, lots of food. Look at that oxpecker right in the front of that buffalo's face, looking for ticks. You'll often see it looking for ticks right in its nostrils, in its ears. So I'm gonna keep going. We got what we wanted from this watering hole. An incredibly special rufous-bellied heron and a bit of a treat with these buffalo coming through. I'm going to send you to Kyle and at Tswalu admiring the vegetation. Dan, rufous-bellied heron, oh my word. That is just so unfair right now. Good thing we've got pretty little flowers. Beautiful little flower over here that we're busy just appreciating. And with the rain that we have been receiving, there is a lot of tiny little things that are just busting out from every little corner. And this is a creeper, or what we call, a creeper or a climber more correctly termed, which is a perennial herb that we see here in Tswalu. And this is a wild cucumber. A very beautiful plant at that, and a very beautiful flower to go with it. And very easily to obviously recognize this plant is that you can see that it does have a climbing structure or a climbing format. You can see the plant moves up from over here, and you can see how it kind of tangles itself up into this little shepherd's tree, and how it's trying to get a little bit higher to get even more light. So a real nice advantage. And the ability for these plants to do this climbing behavior is quite remarkable. It's a little bit windy, but it's from a specialized vegetative organ called a tendril, and hence the name tendril. It's actually coiled. It's quite a remarkable little adaptation. So let me just try and find here. There is one right over there. Look at that. So just in line with my thumb, that is a tendril, and that is an organ that is used to actually physically anchor the plant once it reached a higher part. So it would have started on this small little shrub. All right, we're going to send you quickly off to Shala, and we'll see you when you get back.
to the den just to have another look, just in case, because Corky had left earlier. This is June now, and she's by herself. I'm just waiting patiently and quietly, hoping that we're going to see this cub. It's been a day of babies. Baby crocs, baby gnu, baby elephant. I hope you'll get to see our brand new baby hyena too. I want to be quiet so we can hear any squittering and squealing. Hearing anything. June, wake up your baby. It's time for the whole world to see it. The fact that she's here and no other adults around is a great start. That for me means the potential to see this cub is going to be very high. Hopefully we will before we close show. So exciting. I love baby animals. I mean, who doesn't? I need to see a baby chameleon, I think. Maybe this evening we'll find a baby chameleon. I want it to be a day of babies. She'll try again in a bit to go to the den or to the entrance and sniff around, maybe call a little bit. Not a whoop, but she will kind of do that kind of low rumble. She'll keep doing that until the cub comes out. Can't sleep all day, right? She's not looking in the best condition, but also she's just given birth a little while ago, but her hips are quite exposed. You can see the bones. But hopefully the chemical drive in her, the hormones that are coursing through her, might, now that she's a mother again, might trigger her to go feed more often, hunt more often, things like that. Should improve her condition. Well, I really thought that this was going to be the moment, which is why I rushed you over. From Kyle, she walked from the side that came straight to the den entrance, thought it was going to be the moment. But let me send you now back to Kyle so he can finish discussing the wild cucumber.
Well, good thing that Trishala is dedicated, and I'm sure she will get view for you folks. But a really beautiful little plant. And these climbers, if you think about a plant reaching up to the heavens and utilizing other structures such as these trees, it is really remarkable. And so if you think about just one or two adaptations, these tendrils are very important vegetative part of the plant. It's also widely used in forests, these tendrils, to latch on and anchor the plant. as it's busy growing. A really remarkable function, let's say at that. Very easy to recognize. 3 to 5 lobes. Almost looks like that of a hand or a palm with fingers. Very easy to recognize these beautiful splayed out leaves. And then obviously there's pink. Oh, listen to me. I'm a bit colorblind today. These beautiful off yellow flowers, also very easy to recognize, with a beautiful greeny and then obviously yellow center. And so climbers are plants that would tend to climb, just like this one is busy doing here. And then I mentioned in the beginning creepers. This would be a form of a creeper over here. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. But this is a form of a creeper. This is gemsbok cucumber. And this is growing on the ground, hence the name creeper. It's creeping along the surface of the soil. Unlike the climber, which is obviously climbing up into the heavens. But you can see how they actually have a similar, they are different species, but have a similar leaf structure, almost palm-like, with these 3 to 5 lobes as well. But this one's much larger. There's also tiny little hairs, which are very rough on the plant. I mean, if I go a bit closer here, you can actually hear the hairs on the leaf, and that's to deter any nibbling little insects or herbivores, just to deter them from feeding off these very important structures. There's a remarkable plant within this area, the gemsbok cucumber, along with another plant called a tsama melon. But we'll look at that at a later stage, but we're going to send you off somewhere else just for now, and we'll see you when you get back this side.
Welcome back to Phinda, everybody. So this female cheetah now, from where she's sitting, you can see she's just pricked her head up. Her ears are pointed forward. There might be something in the bush up ahead that she's heard. There's quite a big thicket off to our right, so we can't see anything from where we are. But the way she's behaving is very... The cub's sitting up now as well, looking around. Definitely heard something. There we go. Mom's lying back down again, maybe not interested in what she's heard, but very alert still. So the last sort of 10-15 minutes or so, they have been sleeping, heads down, not interested in anything that's going on. And all of a sudden, as soon as you cut back to us, we got a view of her sitting up there beautifully, showing interest in something. And you'll often find when they start to realize a hunting opportunity, they'll sit up like that, prick their ears up, and if they think it's an opportunity that they can take, she'll get up and start stalking. So this now has obviously not been an opportunity that she feels is worthwhile, but really, really special to see that first little initial interest that was shown there. The cubs now moving into a little bit of a deeper shade of the bush. The temperature at Phinda here is really starting to pick up as the day kind of starts unfolding. I think it's going to be quite a cooker this side. But they are, for now, quite happy in the shade here. I mentioned a little bit earlier that they had eaten in the last little while, but they weren't full. So if they get an opportunity to hunt or stalk an animal, they will most definitely take it. One of the requirements, I suppose, for being a big cat is that you need to take your opportunities when they come, and you can't only hunt when you're hungry. So these two will take an opportunity if it presents itself now. The mother's now looking a little bit more like she might be getting up. They are really well hidden in this bush where they're sitting. So if anything was to approach from their right-hand side, they could very easily just use the bush and the slightly longer grass where we're sitting to hide and camouflage themselves. Also important to remember that these cheetah have got an incredible sense of hearing. So although we might not be able to hear anything crunching or coming through the bush, they most definitely will be. The wind is blowing from the left. Oh, she's up again. From the left to the right. So their scent is going to be blowing downwind to the right-hand side, but that hasn't stopped them from trying, at least anyway. And if there are any animals that are coming upwind in the direction that they aren't looking, they will pick up the scent as it blows down onto them. So they have a very, very good idea of everything that's happening around them now. All the sounds and smells are going to be blowing down from the left-hand side of us here, or the north, and everything on the southern side they've got in view. So you can see her, she's pricked her head up, she's looking a little bit uneasy there. You can see her tail flicking around. There might be some flies or some less exciting things happening there, buzzing around and irritating her. There's a fly buzzing around my head. That's not the most pleasant experience, I can tell you that. But she's up now. As it started getting a little bit warmer, she's also started breathing quite a lot more heavily. If you take a look at her rib cage there and her side and her mouth's just ajar, and there's a little bit of a pant that's happening here. And we're going to definitely stay. It'll be really interesting. And there she goes and lies down again. So maybe just getting a little bit more uncomfortable now as it starts really heating up. We are going to sit with these two cheetah for a little bit longer. And for now, you guys are going to head back across to Dan, who's got something happening that side.
Welcome back, and what we have here is a very comfortable and quite curious little wildebeest calf that might even be a few days old. I mean, this time of year is spectacular with all the life that's around the baby impalas, the baby wildebeest, occasionally baby zebra as well. I mean, there are a few females that are in this group of wildebeest here, and I mean, if you sat here for long enough, you'd probably even watch one of them give birth if you were lucky enough. I mean, that little calf on the right there, that one, you can still see its umbilical cord that's attached. This one that's on the ground as well, even younger than that one. When it stood up, I could see an incredibly long umbilical cord. Look how wobbly they still are on their legs. There's a few females in here that I'm actually going to spend a bit of time watching, just to see if they don't give any signs of they might be giving birth soon. I mean, their wildebeest will all give birth very quickly. I don't know if you can see, there's a group of zebra that have come into the picture as well. There's also some very pregnant females in this group of zebra. They're looking very wide, and some of them looking quite uncomfortable. I mean, if I'm going to spend a bit of time here, I want to see if maybe we can't get either a wildebeest or a zebra giving birth. They've picked a nice open area. There's good food around. I mean, look at the bellies on some of those females. I think the one that's even most pregnant is the one at the back there, kind of like in the middle. I love the stripes and how the tails are always going. Look how all those stripes at the bottom of the legs are very white and black, and the stripes like on the body are almost quite a tan color. I'm sure these zebras have spent quite a lot of time rolling in the sand, and that will turn that color into that kind of tan color. I love the color of the green in the background as well. It really is beautiful. Quite amazing as well. This wildebeest that's right in front of us, he's watching us very carefully. I don't think he's necessarily the father of these cubs. I mean, your calves, excuse me. But have a look, you see how he's missing his left horn. I'm sure looks like he's got quite a good territory, and the reason I say that is because he's got a group of females. He very likely could have lost that in a fight, protecting his territory. And I'm sure whoever lost the fight has moved on, and very likely that because he'd lost this good territory, he doesn't have any females with him, and he'll try and do his best to keep these females in his territory for as long as he can. That'll assure him the best chance at actually fathering next year's calves. You see how he's kind of like walking around towards the herd or the group of females. He'll almost act as a herder, and he'll kind of move around, try and ensure that they stay in his group. It won't be terribly long before those females come back into heat. I mean, wildebeest are pregnant for about 9 months or so, an incredibly long time. And one of the reasons that they are pregnant for so long is that you see these little babies that are around, and I'm sure you've been seeing a few of them in the past few days. When they're born, it takes them only about 10 minutes before they find their feet. It's a bit wobbly, but it's an incredible feat of nature that a baby that's just born, spent 9 months developing, is able to run around and walk around so quickly. And that's one of its best forms of defense. I mean, all sorts of predators are waiting around these kinds of groups, waiting for a female to start going into labor, where they might come in, and as soon as she goes into labor, a predator may come in and either take the mother or just wait for the newborn calf to drop, where they'll take it. Look at that one, kind of might have got some pins and needles in its leg that it was lying on. Oof, now stretching its head across there. I love the color differences between the mom and the little one. I mean, also a defense strategy is for that little one just to lie exactly like it is, dead still, and wait for a predator to kind of move by without seeing it or spotting it. Those ears kind of right out to the side. So I'm going to spend a bit more time here, just because there are some heavily pregnant females, both on the zebra side and the wildebeest side. Give it about 10-15 minutes, see if we aren't lucky and get to watch a birth.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me. It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we come into you live from the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
As you can see, we're still with our Ellie herd, but it's far more relaxed now. The bulls have kind of left them alone, and the herd, or the number of animals protecting this little calf has really reduced down to only a very few special individuals that are probably directly related to that little newborn. It seems that I'm trying to figure out which one is actually the mother at the moment, but it seems like it's one of these two in front on the right-hand side, so one of the two smaller ones. So whether or not it's a female that's ever had a calf before, I'm not sure. I'm trying to work out where this little one is trying to suckle from, but it followed those two down towards us, and then that bigger female arrived much later. So I suspect it's this one in front that is the mother, but I can't see her mammary glands. They don't look swollen. So I'm not 100% sure. You can just see the little baby moving in amongst there. But what amazes me with this is the experience of these elephants. These elephants know exactly what they're doing. So right now, they've got obviously all of these females kind of together. And sorry, Bex, I didn't actually pick you up nicely at all. If you can just repeat that for me. But what they've done is that you see how they're spraying sand on themselves at the moment? Now that spraying of sand is hugely important. Because what it's doing is it's actually cooling these animals down. They know with this baby then the likelihood of getting to water anytime soon is very slim. So they're throwing excess amounts of sand on themselves just to create a layer that helps just with their cooling process so that they don't actually get overheat while they wait for this baby to gain its legs. Jess, you're asking when will the baby leave its mother? Well, if it's a female, probably never. She'll always be around her mom. If it's a little male, then about 12 to 15 years old, they get pushed out of the herd. But in terms of when will it leave its mom so tightly like what we're seeing now, generally it takes a good year until they're confident to really move away from mom and kind of just feed on their own. But even then, they know that they need to be close to mom all the time in order to stay safe. I mean, you can see there that little one is really just being pushed around by the others and being guided that way. They're using trees quite a lot just to hide it, so they find a little bush and then they sit behind the bush for a while, and it allows them to have a bit of a feed, and the little baby can kind of use the bush as a protection from the back while the rest are able to move around it. But you can see it's not nearly as densely compacted as what we saw initially. As this little baby's feet are getting stronger and as it's starting to move a little bit more, so one by one individuals are leaving the mother to herself and her direct family grouping. So her offspring, if she's got other offspring, her sisters, they will be all around. There we go. Look, this is the mom here, is on the right. So you see a very young mother. I wonder if it's not one of her first times that she's had a little baby. Hi guys, are you going to come say hello to us? Look at the trunk being grabbed, introducing themselves constantly. What you'll find as well is that when they're defecating, what they'll do is even pick up some of their dung and feed it to that little baby. It's quite an important part of elephant development, is that the little ones need to be able to eat the dung of their mothers. It helps with their bacterial count in their gut, which allows them to then process food more effectively. So it's quite common to see, no, big bull, don't come back. You stay where you are. Leave the girls to themselves. And you see there's a female that's running interference between the male and the little babies. You see how she's just turned herself to say, you stay there, you're not coming through here. And she actually pushed that male back when he started coming down the hill towards the little baby, which is absolutely fascinating. What a magical sighting. All right, well, what's also magical is it sounds like Taylor McCurdy has decided to grace us with her presence once again. And so let's send you up to her and see what she's been up to.
Better late than never, Tristan. Hey? Fashionably late, but yes, we have a tortoise which could not escape our clutches this morning. Well, I suppose it could. Anyways, it is a Speaks Hinge tortoise just on the road in front of us, which is quite nice, and I will be waving my hands around frantically for the rest of the morning. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, and we are here at Prrivate Conservancy, which is part of Tswalu Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger. Now, the reason for the karate moves is because of the flies. They're really annoying, and there are lots of ant alates that are flying about. I don't know what it's like at Djuma or Ngala or Phinda. Not so great here in Prrivate. But anyways, no. Where has this tortoise gone now? Oh, there. Whew. Step to the left. To the left, to the left. It's going in the bushes. There, can you see it? You can just see vegetation moving. I suppose now's the time to tell you that there is a tortoise that is in the world, or the Guinness World Records, for being the fastest tortoise in the world. It's not this one, as we've seen, but I reckon if this Speaks Hinge tortoise were pinned up against Bertie, who holds the current record for moving a whopping 0.28 meters per second. was pretty spectacular. Sometimes I don't even think I can move that quickly. Yes, that was great. But anyways, the reason why we're seeing all the tortoises around is obviously because of the rain, which is great. And I reckon just before we had this last spell, I did see lots of leopard tortoises and hinge tortoises moving about too, because we know that they can also feel the atmospheric pressure drop just before the rain systems come through. What we are going to do, though, is head onto the open plains, because I saw some Timix courses yesterday, which I'd like to have a look at. Maybe they'll give us a view. Off you go across to some cheetah that are soundly sleeping.
Okay, so welcome back once again to andBeyond Phinda. We're coming to you live. This mother and her daughter are now still in the same position. We've shifted in a little bit, so we've got quite a nice view here of the mother lying down. The daughter's a little bit further back in the bush. You can see the mother's tail just flicking around as she tries to chase off flies and anything else that might be pestering her in this heat. They haven't moved much. She got up briefly and then sat down again. And perfect example of a cheetah's resting position now. The back of her head is facing into the wind, like I mentioned. The smells and sounds and scents of both predator and prey will blow down onto her from that side. And even though her eyes are closed, her ears are still moving around. She just gave us a little flick there. Maybe there's a fly bothering that left or right ear of hers. And if she hears or becomes aware of anything, her eyes will immediately go open. Cheetah have got a tendon or two tendons in their neck, which helps them to keep their head up like her head is up now while they sleep, which is quite an amazing adaptation. I remember the first time I came and sat with Cheetah and watched them sitting and lying like this with their heads propped up. I imagined that I imagined that I would get a very stiff neck quite quickly if I had to lie around like this all the time. But something that they've developed and evolved to have so that they can be much more aware and become just in the know of everything that's moving and approaching around them. You can see her eyes just opening now, maybe caught a little noise or a sound of something. But back to sleep, so it can't be too exciting. The cub has been sitting up and getting down, and just now we heard something across in the bush on our right-hand side. The mother seemed a little bit interested in that, but then lost interest quite quickly. So the cub still seems like she's keeping an ear open for whatever that is. Maybe as some Nyala or a warthog moves through the thicket, it's making a little bit of noise as it feeds, and they're just getting the sound of that. And we were sitting the other day, and I was thinking about cheetah and hunting and how successfully they need to hunt, and how if I was a cheetah and I wanted to catch something, I'd go out and look for it. But it's actually a very, very clever strategy that cats have developed, actually, just to sit in a space and occupy the space and wait. Because if you've got enough patience, there are animals all around here. We've got lots of antelope species on Phinda, and quite good numbers of them too. So if they're patient enough and they hang out here and wait, there's bound to be something that presents itself, an opportunity to hunt. So it's not always about moving around and actively looking for an opportunity. Just being here and occupying the space and being aware of what's going on around them, the opportunities might present themselves. And those opportunities might even be, or have a higher chance of success than if they are out moving around and looking for food, because if they're moving, they're less camouflaged and they're more likely to be spotted. So a very successful strategy that these cheetah have developed. Now, mother's sitting up. I think it's a beautiful scene that we've got here. So let's just take a couple moments of quiet time. Listen to the wind blowing, watch the mother looking around. And enjoying the sights and sounds of the African bush. Quite an iconic scene with this mother and her cub sitting in the grass, slowly blowing. See those blades of grass that are a little bit lighter in color and more neutral tone, just waving in the wind. I don't think these two are going to go anywhere too quickly now. We'll stay with them for another little while, see if any opportunity presents itself. But one of the other guides has a hyena for you. So we'll send you off and see you again soon.
Very, very sleepy indeed. Still with her at the den here. But this is where our patience pants will come very much in handy. And out here in the bush, we have a good few pair of those. And I've got my spotted hyena patience pants on today. Watching June. I think she's just come over to the side of the mound because it's cooler though. And the other side of the mound, that's usually where they'll suckle. Not on this side. But I'll take my cue from her. When she decides to move, when she hears something, when we hear something, then we'll move. Also keeping a good distance so she feels comfortable. And the cub could come out and grace us with its presence on this very baby morning. But do remember, guys, it's a live safari, so send us your questions and your comments using the hashtag WildEarth or @FC on the YouTube chat stream. Or you can go over to our website and register there and use our question box. And all the lovely kiddies, they can send us questions using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We love hearing from all ages of people, asking and being curious about all the animals we have out here and that we get to spend time with. And the fact that we know there's a little cub in this den is just so precious. And I love this time for waiting. It's like sitting in an auditorium and the curtains are going to open just now. And all will be revealed to you. It's a very special feeling. I also find it curious that it's such a special feeling for us, but for them, like for June, this is just part of her daily routine. This is her life now. She's got a cup. She's just waiting and relaxing and resting until the cub is ready to feed. But for us, it's so special. I think if there was one thing I could communicate to animals, it would be just how special they make our lives. Watching cute videos or learning about animal behavior, all those things bring us such joy. And yet they don't know it at all. I wish I could whoop that to you, June. Here comes out the wrong cub. Hello, Poppet. Do you have a little playmate in there? A new playmate? Hearts 2 are growing so fast. You can still tell the size difference between Hearts 2 and Shimbulu and Gwazi, Ribbons 2. They're also growing very quickly. But little Corky, she's just an amazing little thing. Amazing. She's taken a little longer to grow as big as the others, but she's just... her personality and character make up for any size difference. Well, one of Heart's little ones out. Maybe the others will follow. Maybe this will trigger June to go to the front of the den. Maybe somebody is awake. So much potential.
Welcome back, everybody. So I'm still with these wildebeest and these zebra, and they were all taking it very easy, but I'm going to spend some time listening. There were monkeys alarm calling to our left as well, which got their attention. So let's keep quiet and see if we can't hear them again. That little one suckling, taking advantage of the fact that Mom is now standing up. I mean, when we were stopped just before we went silent, there were some monkeys that were alarm calling to behind us, which got everybody to stand up. And they're super alert. I might go and have a quick look to see if we can't find those monkeys and or a leopard that they were probably alarming at. Let's see if we can't get lucky.
As you can see, we've left our elephant herd now. They slowly drifted away from us, and I thought, well, you know what, we had such a special sighting that it wasn't worth going through the bushes and clanging around them anyway. They were so good to us for 3 hours that we should rather just leave them to themselves from there. Also, what was really interesting is as we left and they walked away from us, the female with the bigger calf, she left, another female left, and it was just 2 females now with the little baby just guiding it along. So everybody's obviously now greeted and said hello and done their thing and realized the baby's okay. And so now they're going to start resuming normal elephant life, which is pretty interesting to have watched. Anyway, we're checking around now for any sign of Columbus. She was at the dam cam this morning, kind of heading north, so we're just scratching on this northern side just to see if she's here. Unfortunately, I do also have some bad news, which I know we've had a lot of bad news of late, but it sounds like another one of the wild dogs was killed by the Shimungwe lioness again. So that's her second wild dog she's killed this week. But it sounds, I think, from what I can understand, it's the Sands pack, so the pack we saw yesterday afternoon. One of them was grabbed by her, and I don't know if it's an adult or a pup yet. I just got an update from the guys in the western side on Arathusa EP area that she had grabbed another wild dog, which is very, very sad. But it just goes to show you how difficult it is for dogs out here. It's why the population is so low, and the more it rains and the longer the grass gets, the worse it is for the dogs. They actually thrive in drier conditions, so when you have drought conditions, wild dog numbers tend to increase, and that's based off the fact that when there's rain, the grass gets too tall and they don't see predators as easily, whereas when it's a drought and there's very little grass, they can see things like lions and leopards coming from a long way away and therefore avoid them. But yeah, unfortunately, it seems like what's happened. Also, when they kill and they're feeding, they're so distracted and so much noise that they attract way too much attention to themselves a lot of the time. And a single lioness who's just trying to survive will take that opportunity as much as they can. We actually saw her last night, but unfortunately, she was crossing into the Manyeleti. She was milling about at the gate. We had her very briefly in that area. We had nice that she actually roared for us and then just kind of disappeared from there. So we did see her last night. She's looking really good. The cub is on Simambili, but she needs to stop this habit of killing wild dogs now, because that's not good for any of us. That's for sure. All right. We're going to carry on, and like I say, to see if we can find any sign of Kalahari. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Devon, who's, well, with the female cheetah, I think, who had a bit of a bad week herself.
It would really be nice if you guys can find the Trilumba leopard and then have a nice side-by-side comparison with these cheetah to see the difference. For the people that are less familiar with the bush, cheetah and leopard can be confusing. Very basically, cheetah are the quick ones and leopards are the ones that climb trees. But they do look quite similar. The spots are slightly different, but that's something that you only notice a little bit later on. Their body shapes are also very, very different. Leopards are much more well set and a little bit shorter than cheetah, much stockier. And cheetah are very, very clearly built for speed. So they've got long legs, they are incredibly slim and muscular, and they've got much smaller heads as well. You can see this female's head's quite pointy. She's got a very short kind of front of her face. Most of her skull is at the back, but her nose, mouth and eyes are all very close together with characteristic little black teardrop markings that run down the side of her face. I remember watching some football stars that used to rub black kind of paint underneath their eyes before the games, and their reason for doing that was that they said it absorbed some of the light, so things weren't quite as bright. So for these cheetah, who are more active during the day than they are at night, very generally speaking, maybe those black teardrops help absorb some of the bright lights as well, and the highlights, and help them kind of see a more neutral and see better when it's really bright outside, like it's getting now. It's really heating up here. We're approaching it, well, just past 8:30, and the temperature is well on its way to being a really hot day here. You can see the cub now is also panting. She's sitting up at the back, also with those distinct teardrop markings on her face. I think, to be honest, this cub is just looking to get deeper and deeper into this little shady spot that they've found here. The mother started panting probably half an hour ago now. The cub started in the last 10 minutes or so. Really just indicative of how warm it's getting this side. Beautiful little spots of light that are filtering through this little shrubbery tree that they're sitting underneath, or cluster of trees. Cub's got little spots of sunlight on its back, so maybe it's not in the best place to be keeping cool. Maybe it can find its way a little bit deeper into the bush, just to maximize the effect of the shade. They've also chosen a spot that's got quite a lot of open grassland around, and the wind's blowing over here. And at least adding a little bit of a wind chill factor to their hot day. We'll sit with them for a little bit longer. The cub is still showing interest in the bush across to the right that it was looking at earlier. So fingers crossed something comes wandering out. But for now we're going to head across back to Treshala, who has returned to the den.
I've also got my fingers crossed, hoping something will wander out on this side. Heart's cub did wander out. And then she went round and into the other entrance, the entrance that I said they usually use when they're nursing. Maybe it's gone to check on the little one. Who knows? We certainly don't. Because we haven't seen it properly yet. But patience, patience, patience. It's warming up over here too. It's actually very, very nice. Not too hot. Jen, that's an interesting question. You'd like to know if a hyena mother will be more protective of her female cubs. Hyena mums are not actually very protective of their cubs in general. That might sound horrible, but the cubs are born so well developed that they're often left to their own devices, and you'll often see them fighting and things like that amongst the cubs, and the mothers won't intervene because that's the way that they determine their rank and their relationships within the clan, especially amongst cubs. Will she protect a female cub more than a male cub against other hyenas? I don't know. Because there's such a, if it's an immigrant hyena that's just come in, or they're at a boundary and it's a different clan and there's a clash, I don't know, but that would be the type of scenario where you'd see if she protects one sex over the other. Because within the Djuma clan, hierarchies are important and respected. And cubs outrank any males and they inherit their mother's rank. So if both Ribbon's boys, she's got no girls to protect. Maybe that's a bad example. So we have Heart with a girl and a male and a female cub. And say Corky tries to harass them. It will happen, but it won't happen. It won't happen a whole lot. But we're going to take a quick pause because there's a European roller in front of us and we've been wanting to see them for such a long time. Woot woot! Yay! Finally got one. I saw two of them up near Buffelshoek not too long ago, but we haven't managed to put one on camera. How cool? European roller for all of you who haven't had it on your list yet. We just had to get that before it flew away. But we'll continue our discussion in a bit. You can see that the shape is very, very similar to the lilac-breasted roller, but the colors are a little bit more drab, fewer colors, and a lot more blue going on. I also find them to be just a tad stockier. So pretty. Well, June was looking in that direction. Maybe she noticed it was a European roller too. That's why she kept looking here. Sitting so well for us too. They're both sitting very peacefully. But we will continue with who. Well, just to wrap very quickly before I get lost or it before the thought is lost. I don't know if a hyena will choose one sex over the other, because you don't get to see that interaction very often. But now I shall send you over to Kyle. He's at a waterhole. Maybe he'll show you some wonderful birds too.
Well done on the roller there, Trishala. And we are also on a stakeout. As we came to this pan, we spotted a small falcon in flight. Actually, better termed a hobby. It was an Eurasian hobby that was fluttering around here at this beautiful pan. And it seems like it's gone quite far off now. And we're just waiting to see if it comes back into this area, because it was moving around here like it was busy. It's just gone off to the southern part of this pan, and we're just hoping and praying it'll come back in here. Enjoying the little grebes and the movement of the beautiful water. We've done a quick little check, obviously respect number one. A quick little check on our 3 little blue eggs. There are still 3 little blue eggs, and there are still 4 little lapwing eggs on the eastern side, or the left-hand side of this pan. So all checks done for the day. When it comes to checking, especially the nesting phase or period for these glossy starlings, it's something that I don't have a lot of documentation on. The application that I use for birds in the field doesn't have a lot of data on the nesting period of glossy starlings. So something hopefully that I can contribute to the scientific world. Stage by stage, when do their feathers emerge? How often are they fed? Are they fed by male and female? All interesting stuff. Or if you have an interest in this type of stuff. Black cuckoo busy calling behind me. So Rad. Wow! Well, we're going to send you from here to a rolling zebra at Ngala.
Welcome back, everybody, and rolling zebras is exactly what we've got. Oof, quickly up though. And I'm still hanging around here, and this one that was rolling around has kind of just blocked the view of the zebra that I've really had my eyes on. And the reason for that is, there, can you see the one that's just kind of being exposed by the one that was kicking its leg there? Can you see how round her tummy is? I'm sure she's going to be giving birth in the next day or so. If you look very closely, occasionally you can even see her foal inside kicking and moving around, and she looks incredibly uncomfortable. You'll see her kind of chopping and changing between her back legs and what weight she's putting on them. And you see the other ones kind of also like gathering around her. I'm sure it's almost like a matter of hours before she gives birth, and that's the reason that I'm really spending a lot of time here. And they're not far, they've also kind of like moved from where they were earlier closer to these wildebeest, which are also right next to them. If you just have a close look, there's also a very few very pregnant wildebeest in there. But I think the fact that the zebra have moved into this kind of area, allowing themselves a real good place to have a look. You can see none of them are really worried about feeding at the moment, although the very pregnant one has just put her head down to feed a little bit. But they haven't been feeding for the past half an hour or so. They're resting, taking it easy, and potentially just waiting for this one member of their dazzle to come into labor. This is a good place to give birth as well, in the open. I wonder if, can you see, I mean, BK, if you just have a look at the one on the right-hand side as well, the male, or the stallion, not, so this one on the right-hand side there, can you see how the male of the stallion is kind of keeping guard? He's watching, listening, making sure that his females are all right, and if they do give birth, he's going to be the one that's going to be protecting them mostly. I mean, moving towards the wildebeest as well, you've got extra eyes and ears looking out. And then, I mean, these three females have just kind of turned around right towards us, facing us, kind of watching us, almost as if they know we're talking about them. I really hope you decide to give birth in front of us. It'd be an absolute spectacle to watch. Look at their faces. It's almost like an illusion, an optical illusion that you're looking at. And that is a theory as to one of the benefits of having stripes. I mean, all these stripes on these zebras, when they are running quite quickly, and you've got lots of them running past you, the illusion of those stripes can confuse predators into which direction they are going, particularly if they're turning quickly. Oof. One of the other zebras has just laid down as well. Wonder if it's not going to roll around. I mean, humans, we take for granted the fact that we've got hands, and you'll see if you've got an itch on your back, the only way to kind of get it is by rolling around on the ground. I mean, they'll try and use their teeth and almost bite an itch, but often it's not so easy. Oxpecker moving in and out of that mane. Rex or Bex, I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. How long does a zebra carry its foal for? How long does it gestate for? It's pretty much a full year that it carries its baby, and it's a long time, hey? And also one of the reasons that it carries its young for so long is that it allows it and gives it time to develop inside, because once that animal is born, it really needs to be able to run and move quickly. That's its biggest form of defense. Of course, it has that stallion and the mother to help look after it. But if lions ran into this group now, the best form of defense is to actually run away. And so the reason that it takes so long is that that baby needs an incredibly long time to develop legs and muscles that are adequate to running quickly and being very agile from minutes after it's born. I mean, even the fact that they're all just kind of standing still, that female that I was talking about is still like in the middle of those two mares, watching. You kind of see her rocking from side to side every now and then. Love it when those tails kind of sync up. You see her kicking there as well, a few flies that are irritating her. She's kind of switching her weight between the left side, right side. I mean, this view is actually spectacular. You can see the girth of her belly. I'm sure she can't wait to give birth and actually drop. I mean, it's been a year that she's been carrying it, and she's probably incredibly uncomfortable at this point. I really hope we can pick up that foal. You'll see its legs often kicking in that belly. And almost when it does that, it moves the whole female. She'll kind of sway and rock. That's when you know it's kind of time for that baby to be brought into this world. The zebra on the right-hand side is just laid down again, looking quite comfortable, and you'll see it's releasing quite a lot of gas from its rear end, or a fart as we all know it, and you'll see it's to do with their digestive system. Their hindgut fermenters, zebra, and when they eat, you'll see that it'll ferment in their stomach, creating quite a lot of gas. So I'm sure once this one laid down, put a bit of pressure on its stomach, it's being forced to release that gas. It looks quite strange just lying there, snoozing. So I'm not going anywhere. I'd love to try and see if we can't get this female going into labor, or at least giving birth. It might even be the first place I come to this afternoon to check if she hasn't yet. But I'm going to send you to Tswalu with a hyena who's also lying down.
Oh, that would be very, very exciting. It would be a whole baby full day. Whole day just on babies. That would be excellent. Hopefully this little baby that we want to come out of the den will. But I think our patience pants, take them off, give them a wash, put them back on this afternoon. Fen, I think it is Fen. You'd like to know how long hyena cubs stay in the den for? They'll stay exclusively at the den for about the first 6 months. And then after that, they'll start to wander around, wander off. And then by a year, they'll stop using the den. They may still hang around den sites, but they will stop actively using the den. Then they'll be moving around and things like that. Sometimes it extends even further than that, because they still may have a couple months of weaning left in them. The maximum time for them to be weaned is about 1.5 years, but generally about 15 months or so. So it can extend to even that long, but by that time, really, the den site has just become a communal place where everyone can come together and settle. It's also a place where they would have done most of their territorial markings, and a very familiar and safe place for them. So they may not use the den tunnels and things like that, but they'll still be around it up until the point that they stop suckling from mum. They do spend a lot of time nursing hyenas. It's a very, very, very long period of producing milk, which is very intensive for the body of the females. But it's also necessary for the cubs to develop to be strong and capable sub-adults. And also remember that weaning time, that's the maximum. So most of the cubs are weaned around 1 year. At least that process is well underway. And they'll be feeding less and less and less often. Remember, they'll already be eating meat. And a lot of it, in fact, the majority of their diet would be meat at that time. So the use of the den just falls away more and more. Well, patience pants are going home to dry and then coming back this afternoon. Maybe I'll even wear a new pair for this afternoon. I am, going to wrap it up here. Thank you, June. Hopefully we'll see you this afternoon.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Moritz and I come to you live every day from Tswalu Kalahari here in South Africa. My favorite thing is probably the predators. And as you can see, we're looking at some of them right now. These are the kings of the Kalahari. Spending time with the cats, it's just a privilege. And I love their behavior, you know, the more that you look at them, just the power and the sheer beauty and elegance of them.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Thanks, Dan, and we are back at a very warm Phinda Private Game Reserve in northeastern KwaZulu-Natal. These two cheetah are still very, very much asleep and soaking up the shade of this tree that it has to offer. These two individuals are quite well known, or they're quite familiar with this area. When this mother was, or rather when the cubs were a little bit younger, she had 3 of them, and they spent a lot of time in this area around the top of the reserve here. We really, there's nothing cuter than a cheetah cub, so we spent lots of time with them here. I'm very unfortunate to see her losing that cub a little week or 2 ago. If you head across to my social media account, I've got some beautiful photographs of them not too far away from where they are now. And I'd always appreciate go check that out. Don't forget to look at the WildEarth official Instagram account and their social media platforms, where they post lots of beautiful footage that we pick up while we're coming out on drive. I think for the rest of the day, these cheetah are going to be lying around in the shade of this tree, waiting for an opportunity. It was beautiful to have all of you join us this morning. Thank you so much for your time and effort. It's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We'll be back this afternoon again for an afternoon drive. It will be lovely to have you here. Your support is greatly appreciated. Have a beautiful Monday, and we'll see you later this afternoon.